Good evening, everyone. Before calling this public meeting to order for April 21st, I would respectfully acknowledge on behalf of council and the community that the city of Pembroke resides on the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We thank the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. It is with this statement that we honor and respect the Algonquins on whose land we reside. So we'll call the meeting to order. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest in relation to this public meeting? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda, moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Purcell. Those in favor? That is carried. We have one item under new business this evening. This meeting has been called to consider the process under the Development Charges Act 1997 to give notice of a public meeting required for proposed development charge rates. Madam Clerk, would you please provide a report on how notice was given?
Notice was given in the Pembroke Observer and News on March 26, 2026, and it has been posted on the city's website since March 20th, 2026. The notice was also sent by email to local contractors and builders on March 25th, 2026. The draft development charges bylaw was added to the city's website on April 2nd, 2026.
Thank you. And at this point, if we can turn it over to the Director of Planning Building, Ms. Sorio, to bring this matter before us.
Good evening. This evening we have our consultants here, Andrew Mirabella and Muskan Chandy of Hemson Consulting through Zoom. They will be attending to discuss the citywide development charges background study as well as draft rates. So I will turn it over to Andrew at this point.
Great. Thanks, Colleen, and good evening. Again, my name is Andrew Mirabella from Hemson Consulting. As indicated, we were retained to undertake the city's development charge background study process, and the purpose of today's meeting is the statutory public meeting as required for under the Act. I'm just going to be sharing my screen. All right. Assuming everyone can see that, just make it a little bit bigger. As required under the Act, Section 12, we have to hold a public meeting, and really this is the opportunities to make any representation on the 2026 DC background study, as well as the draft bylaw and rates, both of which were made available to the public in advance of this meeting in accordance with the requirements of the Development Charges Act. So today we'll discuss a few items. We'll go through some background and some of our study objectives. I'll go through kind of the main kind of elements of our DC background study, one of which being a summary of our development forecast. We'll go through the development-related capital program. I'll talk about the calculated DC rates, and we'll cap off with kind of some rate comparison and some bylaw considerations and next steps. So, just firstly, kind of what are development charges? They're imposed on development to pay for the growth-related capital costs. For the emplacement of new infrastructure and facilities to maintain service levels. The DCs can be levied at, depending on the municipality, at the county or upper tier level, at the local municipal level, and if applicable, there's also education DCs. The principle behind development charges is growth pays for growth, so the intention being that the infrastructure and facilities required to pay for infrastructure required for development are paid for those by development that are using the service. So just to provide some background, the 2021 council passed the city's current DC bylaw that effectively imposed development charge rates for a series of eligible services delineated between what we call as general services and engineered services. On the general services side, it looks at things as library, parks and recreation, fire, police, and studies. Engineered services are traditionally include roads, water, wastewater services, and public works. What we'll see is kind of toward the back end of the presentation, although the rates that were initially calculated in 2021 were higher than what we currently are currently in place. Council approved a motion for the DC rates that effectively maintain at the current level plus 2% annual increases over the 5-year life of the bylaw. So the DC rates that are imposed now in Pembroke are lower than what was calculated during that 2021 DC background study process as a matter of policy direction from council. The city's current DC bylaw expires on June 7th of 2026. Notwithstanding there is latitude under the most recent string of legislative changes to extend out that bylaw should it be deemed necessary. So, in terms of our kind of retainer and background, we're really simultaneously conducting two background studies. And what's in front of us and what we're talking about today as part of this public meeting is the citywide DC background study, which covers all of our general services, the services related to a highway being our roads related and public works services, and the wastewater services, which is Pembroke share of that infrastructure. And then in addition to that, there's a joint water and wastewater services DC background study for the services that are joined and shared with Laurentian Valley, which largely covers all the water infrastructure, as well as some wastewater infrastructure, which is shared between the two municipalities. So, the intention being with the kind of the staged process here to pass for a new DC bylaw for our citywide services, which obviously excludes the joint water and wastewater assets, which will be covered in a subsequent background study, but our background study today covers the citywide portion of the rates. And the city can maintain the existing water charge within your existing bylaw until the joint water and wastewater development charge background study is complete and new bylaws in place for those services. So there is some timing differences based on the inputs from the external consultants and collaboration with Laurentian Valley on the completion of their background study, but we're hoping that we can get some conclusion on some of those inputs and bring that study, at least the results, to forward to both councils for consideration in the near future for the water and wastewater joint infrastructure. So in terms of our study process, the first thing we do is look at the development forecast, the amount, type, and location of development. That really helps inform the growth-related capital infrastructure needs in terms of what infrastructure we need to build in order to support the development proceeding. There are limitations under the Development Charges Act in which we can't use DCs to increase our level of service. We can only use DCs to maintain that level of service. So you'll see on the box on the right, there's a 15-year historical service level, which we're effectively bound by that service level calculation. And we use that as a guiding tool for virtually all services, with the exception of water and wastewater, which aren't bound by that historical service level. There are a series of legislated reductions in place for grants, subsidies, contributions, any benefit to existing shares. There's money available in DC reserve funds. We have to make those adjustments to the capital cost to reduce the gross program. Once we make those deductions, we have our costs eligible for DC recovery, which are delineated between your residential and your non-residential sector. Residentially, the charges are on a per unit basis. Non-residentially is on a per square foot or per square meter of gross floor area. So moving forward, looking at our population, household, and employment projections, we have a 10-year planning horizon for the services that we're looking at. We are planning on obviously increased growth in the municipality, both in population, households, and employment. We have factored in about 90 new units a year on average over the planning horizon, which translates into a census population growth of just under 2,000 people over that period, with employment growth of about 880 employees over that period. And we have the historical trend line, which we've seen on the population side increases in recent years, similarly on the household side, and we are anticipating that trend to continue, and recognizing some of the development that's in the pipeline and some of the applications that are approved, which we work with staff to kind of develop this forecast. So once we have the forecast, then we look at our growth-related capital program, which is informed by a few different sources, one being your multi-year capital construction forecast, the previous DC background study, discussions with municipal staff. And again, we've had to make adjustments for those different requirements under the Act, and I'll show you what those look like in the coming slide here. So the overall program, we have our services along the left. And then we have our first column being our gross cost, and we have our total 10-year program for citywide capital infrastructure to be about $51.5 million. When we look at the total quantum of that program, we have about $14 million in roads and about $10 million in parks and rec, and $7 million in libraries, which are driven by obviously just increases in your road program in terms of new construction and intersection improvements on also the Parks and Rec, as well as facility acquisitions and constructions. And we have our grant subsidy column, about $3.1 million, so a share of the program that's kind of removed from the development charge calculation, which we are intending on subsidies from other levels of government. Benefit to existing shares of about $14.8 million. So that's the share of the program that's not included for DC recovery. That would have to be funded from non-DC sources. There's some money available in the reserve fund, about $141,000, which we've applied to the projects occurring first. You'll see that there's a kind of a post-2035 benefit. So it's about $9.96 million, and that's the share of the program that's deemed to be benefiting development beyond the 10-year plan horizon. So it will extend beyond our DC recoverable program. So we won't be recovering in this background study or this DC bylaw, but will be considered for recovery in subsequent DC bylaw. So it is still growth related, just not captured in our 10-year window. Then we have the far right column is our in-period share, the $23.4 million, and that's the share of the program that is DC eligible and is considered for recovery under this bylaw, and that's what will inform the calculated rates. So, I mean, part of the story and the takeaway here is that we have a gross program of over $51 million, but sort of less than half of that actually makes its way into the calculation of the DC rate after we make all the requirements and the adjustment to the calculation. Again, just noting the capital program here excludes any shared infrastructure for water and wastewater. That would be recovered and captured separately. So we have our citywide DC calculation. Our charges that we have and calculated rates consider obviously the capital program, the service level analysis, as well as the growth forecast itself. We include what we call a cash flow analysis. So effectively the interest and financing costs associated with carrying out the program is also included and embedded for in the rate calculation itself. The charges are levied between your residential and non-residential sector. So our residential charges, you'll see on the next slide, they're by unit type, and the non-residential charges on an area basis of gross floor area. The services that we're looking at and the consideration for it on an area rating basis, they're applied on a citywide basis for the services here. And we've applied that. So anywhere that's developing in the city of Pembroke would be levied DC rate. So the maximum permissible citywide residential DCs that we've calculated for a single and semi-detached unit is $28,882. You'll see that the rate is differentiated by dwelling unit type based on the occupancy patterns within them. So a row or multiple would attract a lower charge than the single of $23,100, and the apartment rate about $17,300 for each apartment unit developed. The pie graph on the left looks at the distribution of that charge, recognizing that of that $28,800 for a single and semi-detached unit, where does that what's driving the total quantum of that charge? We see our Parks and Recreation share represents about 40%, services related to a highway about 20%, wastewater services for Pembroke infrastructure about 17%, and so on. So that kind of breaks down the total of it. Transit, bylaw services, dilemma-related studies represent a fairly small portion of the total maximum rate that we have here. So we look at the current versus calculated. You may ask, what does that mean to the rates that are currently enforced? The city's current rate for a single detached unit is about $4,089, and that includes all the services that we got. You'll notice kind of another column in the middle here, the 2021 fully calculated rate, just for reference purposes, to be about $28,800. So that's the fully calculated rate that was imposed or calculated at the time of the 2021 DC study. Obviously, council opted not to impose the fully calculated rate, so the current rate that's enforced is much lower than what was calculated during the 2021 DC study process. The calculated rate that's under this background study is the $28,882 for the city of Pembroke assets only. Again, just to kind of further emphasize, anything that's related to shared infrastructure isn't included. That's inclusive of the water services charge being kind of omitted from that calculated charge of 28,882. So, recognizing it's a fairly sizable increase from the current charge, but should the fully calculated rate imposed in 2021 would have been implemented, it would have been along the same lines of a similar rate change from that point in time. So you may ask yourself, well, what other municipalities charge, and how do the city rates compare? At present time, the Pembroke rates are at the low end of the spectrum relative to other communities. Should the fully calculated rates be implemented, it would put Pembroke on the kind of mid to higher end of some of those other communities, less than Carleton Place or Mississippi Mills. Recognizing Ottawa is a larger jurisdiction here in terms of growth and infrastructure and so on. But just for context purposes, we did include them in the rate comparison, and they are significantly higher even than the city's calculated rates that we have in here. One note here, and just as a point of context, it's always tough to put the rate comparisons up on screen. There's, it's important to know what other municipalities are charging, and we can appreciate that. But it's not always an exact apples to apples comparison. The infrastructure needs, the servicing requirements, the growth is different from place to place, and that's really what influences the development charges that are put into place and calculated. But and that's something that just should be taken into context here when looking at the overall comparison. And then second to that is just recognizing some other municipalities might be in the process or looking at updating their DC rates as well, which would obviously change somewhat of the positioning here. And one example being the Rancho Valley going through a similar process. Now they've opted to extend out the bylaw a little bit, but I'm not sure exactly the timing of when their proposal will come back, but that is something that's in the works to come back to council to update those DC rates soon too. So that kind of covers the residential side. Just moving on to the non-residential side, the calculated charge is $94.15 a square meter. Similar kind of story in the sense that the pie graph looks at the relationship of that total charge, where your roads and your wastewater services and fire protection services make up the lion's share of that total non-residential rate. One thing that is a little different is that the services of library and parks and recreation, for example, don't make its way into the non-residential rate. Those are 100% residential related. So the shifting or the reallocation of what's driving the rate is certainly geared to those that have a non-residential or employment benefit. Similar on the comparison of current versus calculated, the charges on a per square meter basis. The current rate that's in force is $10.42 a square meter. The calculated rate being about $124.78 back in 2021, which is obviously substantially higher than the rate that is currently in place. And the calculated rate right now under this bylaw for these specific services, including the shared infrastructure, is $94.15 a square meter. So again, appreciating it's an increase from the current, but in line and relative to the 2021 rate that was calculated, full cost recovery rate that was calculated a few years back. Just putting that into perspective here in terms of our non-residential rate comparison for a commercial development, the municipality's rate would, again, similarly on the non-residential side, be on the lower end of the spectrum. The calculated rate would be kind of towards the middle end of the pack relative to those other communities, again, keeping in lower than the same of Mississippi Mills or Carleton Place, somewhat similar jurisdictions around you. But again, substantially lower than what one in the city of Ottawa would pay for a commercial development outside the Greenbelt area. Maybe just to kind of close out with a couple remarks, one being just the timing of payments for development charges. There's been some changes through the legislation over the last little bit, and I'll use the term some lightly, but one of the things that has changed is when the applicant can pay development charges, and One of the things that's changed is that they've extended out that period. So full DC payments at building permit issuance. Right now, it's only for non-residential developments and residential developments that effectively elect not to pay at occupancy. The legislation has changed that if you're a non-rental residential development, you can pay the full DC at occupancy and the rate can be still determined at building permit. So it gives a little extra leeway of when those payments can be made to better help with developer pro formas, payment structures to allow a little bit more latitude. So there is a bit of a delayed payment plan that's now enforced via the legislation. And in addition to the payment at occupancy, if you're outside of a non-rental residential and you actually are rental housing or institutional development, you would still pay at occupancy. But you can also enter into a payment plan with the first payment being at occupancy and then 5 subsequent payments every year after that. So you're in a 6-year payment plan if you fall under a rental housing development or institutional development. Those are optional to the developer. Should you still want to pay at building permit issuance, you can, or if you don't want to opt into the payment plan, you don't have to. But certainly it does provide extra runway to pay the rates over a longer period of time. And particularly the full DC payment at occupancy for typical residential development has certainly been welcomed by the industry across the province from what we hear. Just in terms of some of the DC bylaw updates, we have made some modifications to the bylaw to update with the new legislative requirements, some of the exemptions and discounts, recognizing the bylaw does still make reference more to the section of the act of where those changes are. We haven't made any adjustments to the non-statutory exemptions. With the bylaw itself, there's still the options for council in terms of how they implement the charge and implement the rates. They're all certainly subject to council discretion. They could be the full rates or partial rates, similar to previous practice. They could be phased in, or there could be a delay in terms of the effective date of when the rates come in. And then you can also expand the list of exemptions in addition to those imposed under the Development Charges Act. The intention is that the DC bylaw does get passed in May 19th. With the bylaw can come into force and effect on passage, but again, that could also be adjusted should council provide direction and discretion on that. That does conclude my presentation. Probably went perhaps maybe a little longer than I thought, but I'm happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
Thank you, Mr. Mirabella. Ms. Sorio?
We have Mr. Cole Foley here this evening, who is a developer, and he would like to provide some comments in regards to the proposed draft background study. So you just have to turn.
Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Cole Foley of Foley Development Group. We're an active local development team advancing multiple purpose-built rental projects here in Pembroke. I want to provide some perspective from the development side, specifically around feasibility. The biggest constraint we're facing right now isn't willingness to build, it's the structure of upfront capital. Before construction even begins, we're carrying significant costs: land, design, engineering, studies, all at risk. When you layer development charges and securities on top of that, all payable early, it creates a very heavy front-loaded capital requirement. That directly impacts whether projects move forward or not. We recognize and appreciate the city's community improvement plan programs. They are helpful, but they are realized later in the process and don't offset the early stage capital exposure. From a feasibility standpoint, it's not just the level of development charges that matters, it's the timing. In other municipalities, we're seeing policies that allow development charges to be paid at occupancy or phased over time, along with targeted incentives for purpose-built rentals. That type of structure materially improves project viability. Let me be clear, If Pembroke increases development charges to align with surrounding municipalities but doesn't offer similar flexibility in timing or structure, it effectively becomes a higher cost environment overall, especially when combined with an already higher property tax burden. And capital is mobile. Projects will naturally move toward jurisdictions where the total cost structure and timing are more aligned with how development actually works. We want to continue building in Pembroke. We see a long-term opportunity here. We do. We're local, we live here, we invest here, and we're a part of this community. We're not just building projects, we're building in a place we care about. But for that to happen consistently, the policy framework needs to support not just the development in theory, but the development in practice. Thank you.
Mr. Foley. Ms. Sawyer, was there anyone else in opposition or in support of this one?
I don't believe there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak, but I do have two letters that I would like to read, please. The first one is from Kai Laporte, and he's been recently informed that there is talk of building fees increasing. I have multiple buildings in Pembroke, and this very much concerns me as I have invested heavily in Pembroke. An increase in building fees would definitely have an adverse effect on my business and my outlook on my building's future development in Pembroke. The talk of the federal and provincial government is to decrease red tape and lessen the restriction held by a builder, but this contradicts all the information we are receiving through the media. Please follow through with promises made by our provincial government. Kai Laporte. The second letter is from Pat Lapointe to Mayor and City Council. I am a new developer slash home builder in Pembroke, and changes to the development fees affect me directly. Any substantial change to the development charge will affect the competitive advantage of doing business in Pembroke. The province is pushing for municipalities to cut development fees to spur economic development and increase the amount of new homes being built. Why would the City of Pembroke Council move in the opposite direction? If the City of Pembroke wants to continue to see new homes being built within the city's boundaries, I encourage the city not to increase development fees. Pat Lapointe.
Thank you, Ms. Sawyer. Is there any questions from members of council for either Mr. Marabella or for Ms. Sawyer? Councillor Gill?
To Cole's point, what is our current practice in terms of timing?
Through you, our current practice is at the building permit stage. There has been recent changes to the Development Charges Act, and we would be implementing those changes into the new bylaw.
So we will be, what,
So then, okay.
so
if
where
it's-
we're looking to go is in fact there, like that?
Correct. So
Okay.
if it's rental units, for example, that are being built, they would pay, I guess, if it's, say it was based on, I don't know how many units, say 10 units, they would pay a portion, they divide that by 6. The first portion would be at the time of occupancy, and then every year after that for the next 5 years until the development charges are paid.
So I guess my concern with this is, and perhaps we should try and make this issue not come up in an election year again. Everything costs money. The new snowplow we need to buy because Gulfview has so many roads costs money. The new fire truck costs money. The new parks cost money. It's somebody's paying for it. Like, that's the reality. It's not that this stuff isn't happening. Somebody is paying for it. If it's not the development and the people buying the new houses, then it's every other taxpayer. And while I appreciate, I think this is a pretty pro-build council. We're in a pretty pro-build time, but we also have to pay for things still. So the development charges, I believe from speaking with an accountant, are a taxable expense. The person buying the new home is probably getting a mortgage that they're financing over 25, 30 years. So in effect, the cost of their house is is being amortized over a period of time. When we increase everybody else's taxes, it's an increase right there and then. They're paying for it. And I guess what I don't understand is Petawawa has essentially been blowing up. And people can sit there and say it's the military. Military people live in Pembroke too. Lots of them. Hundreds of them live in Pembroke. So I don't accept that we have the lowest local building development charge. We're seeing very little building happening. Gulfview is stagnant. The one behind Fellows is stagnant. The one off TV Tower Road is stagnant. The one behind the mall, I think, has 3 houses in it. So for somebody to tell me that we need to keep our development charges low, my question is, for what purpose? Nothing is currently happening. Petawawa has almost triple the development charges and is building and building and building and building. So, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, how are we supposed to sustain future spending if we're not getting it through development? And why are we putting it on the backs of current taxpayers? They're not the ones getting the new road. They're not the ones, benefiting from the new park. So I guess my question to our expert here is there any correlation between increasing development charges and seeing development up and disappear?
So through the mayor, there's no direct correlation you can exactly look at to suggest that if you increase DC's home, development stops. There's been lots of there's never been a study on that, but there's no evidence that we can suggest that that's what would occur. I mean, you can look at some municipalities that have lowered DCs during the housing crisis to kind of encourage development, and we haven't seen a huge uptick in permits or shovels in the ground in those particular instances. So that's just kind of one example, but a small sample size, obviously, because it's more recent. But we've often found kind of pre this current downturn, I mean, should DCs increase, and we always found that the municipalities with the highest growth also had the highest DCs. That's just driven by the market of where development is taking place and the infrastructure needs, and there's a demand for the product, then the houses will also be built there.
Mr. Gill, Councillor Gill, Councillor Lafreniere.
Yes, Mr. Foley, yes, I appreciate the issue about upfront costs. The scale that we said here said that residentials could be paid upon occupancy, and that's, I believe, what you are building is residential. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No,
Through the
you're
chair?
right.
It is, yes. So you wouldn't have to pay a lot of these charges till the apartments started filling up, I believe, if I'm correct. So I do understand the upfront costs, but these would not have to be paid till your apartments start being occupied, I believe. And I tend to agree with Councillor Keel. We've had these discussions for years around the table every time we're going through development charges. And the difference between a property owner and a residential unit owner is they can claim it on their tax. You're right. A resident who owns a home in the city of Pembroke can't claim that increase on their taxes, on their income tax. So there's a difference where we have to realize we have to think about our ratepayers who are going to be paying those bills if we can't get it somewhere else. I think we have saw a lot of development in Pembroke recently, but you're right. There's some large projects that have been stalled for some reason. And I agree, the low development charges we have now are only putting us further into debt when it comes to the repair work needed on roads and everything else. And we've sat around here at budget time saying, where are we going to get this money? And I'm not saying we're looking for a pot of gold to fall on the shoulders of all the builders, but it has to come from somewhere. We've continued to increase other rates, our facilities, our user fees, and so this is par for the course as far as I'm concerned. So, thank you.
You, Councillor Plummer, and then I have Councillor Giacomo.
Thank you. So I'm on the other side of the table, obviously, than my colleagues here, and I am on the other side of the table on this issue. Councillor Keel makes a point, though. He says, well, if we don't have any development fees, now what's stopping us from raising them? Well, what I will say is we'll definitely won't have any development if we raise them. That's for sure. We've heard from multiple people. I've talked to other people in the community, that builders, and there's competition. We have Laurentian Valley right beside us, which is half the tax rate. People building in Pembroke, yes, we like to do business in Pembroke. It's very easy to do business with the building department. They love working with Colleen and the building inspector here. But if we make take away that economic advantage, people just won't build here. They're proposed $23,000 on a row house unit. How are you supposed to do as a developer, put an 8-plex in or 10 units or even apartment? We see that big apartment on Matheson Road. No, it's not, sorry. Corner Matheson, Angus Campbell. And I don't think that would ever be built here if our development fees were $17,000 a unit. That developer just wouldn't do it. That's too much upfront cost. If we ever want to see, create multiple houses as well as, keeping apartments affordable, we cannot raise development fees. And if we do, we have to be very mindful of how much we raise them, because I just don't foresee anything. People will just do business other places. And to the point, if there's no development now, it doesn't matter what the rate is. The rate could be zero, the rate could be $1 million. If there's no development, it doesn't matter what the rate is. We still will not collect any excess money. The only way to get money is have people come in, build the units, and then set a tax rate on these apartments or houses, and they're going to be paying taxes for the next 50 plus years. But if you won't have a house built, you'll never get that tax money.
Thank you, Councillor Giacomo.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. Over 26 years ago, my first conference, I went to Toronto, and the topic was development charges. And I said to Colleen, who was here at that time too, gosh, we're getting old. I said, Colleen, we don't have development charges. No, she said, Councillor Giacomo, we do not. And I said, well, why don't we? Laurentian Valley has them. Petawawa has them. And guess where all the booming business was? None of it was being done here in Pembroke, and we didn't have any charges. They were in Petawawa, they were in Laurentian Valley, and you can look that up statistically. I'm not making up a fairy tale here. This is a fact. And when I came back, I said, our community should have a development charge to help offset the cost for fire truck, for new sidewalks, for pipes under the sewer, the water tank, the wastewater plant. All those other communities really didn't have that. But people built there for a reason. I'm in the country. Okay, you're in the country. But you come into the city to use our hospital, to use our roads, to use our medical facilities, to use the optometrist. They didn't have those services. So we are the focal point for people coming here. Consequently, the wear and tear on our infrastructures, not only from our residents, which, we pay for in our taxes, they're from others outside the community. So the analogy is that if we increase development charges, I don't think you can really say that, because I drive down Nelson Street, I saw 6 or 8 townhouses built by a chap from Ottawa. I spoke to him, why are you building here? Well, your rates are pretty good. So, he couldn't build those in Ottawa and sell them and make the same profit that he'd make here. So you're getting a development that's coming here from outside of the community. It's not always from here. And I appreciate the builders that are here. They really are providing a vital service for the residents as well. But other people are looking at us too, people from Toronto, from Markham, from Georgetown. I've spoken to them, and Colleen, I think you probably know that as well. There's interest. It's not only interest from here. So if we're not interested in perhaps, continuing with the build at a fairly decent price, take that same development and go and build that townhouse in Ottawa. What's the charge? They're still being built. So, the validity that, well, if we continue to increase the development charge, we won't have any business. It's happening. Look around. It's infill. Wherever you see a house, gone. You see a for sale sign, it's gone. Now, why would that be? Is that because our taxes are too high? I think it's people outside our community understanding that there's real value here in land. And Mr. Foley, in all respect to you, I respect the fact that you're talking about phasing it in. You're not saying don't do it, you're saying phase it in. I have respect for that. I mean, developers are getting hit. Material costs more. A liter of gasoline, a liter of diesel costs more to get the material just to the job site. But by eliminating those development charges, I think we're just shooting ourselves in the foot, because the other folks are continuing with the development charge, and they're continuing to offset their costs for their sidewalks, for whatever new plant they're going to build. And I think we have to keep pace by saying we can't do it or maintain the status quo forever and a day. You can't charge $1, for something you had 50 years ago and say, you know what, we're still going to charge $1 and we're going to get all the business. I don't think it works that way from a business perspective. That's personal. But having worked with, with the department and economic development and also with planning, when I went to this conference, all these people I met from Toronto, they said, you don't have a development charge? What's the matter with you? And I was embarrassed and I was stunned. I said, well, why didn't we have one? And I think the philosophy of the day was, if we don't have them, they'll come and everybody will build. They'll build here, and that did not happen. What happened was we were status quo. If there was going to be a building, it went up. If it didn't, it went to Laurentian Valley or went to Petawawa. So we are the service center, and I think that development charge has to go to offset those costs. And I mean, we're an old community. Petawawa has been around maybe 99 years. We're going to be celebrating 200 years in 2 years from now. We have old infrastructure. We've got pipes that perhaps some of them are even wooden pipes today, sewer pipes that are being replaced. So we have old infrastructure has to be fixed. And the only way we can do that, and we don't want to whack it on the taxpayer. And I know that Mr. Foley will say, well, I'm a taxpayer too. But Mr. Foley has the option of, when he sells his building, he can add that development charge somehow, somewhat. Or would you not put that on your sale? Would you say, no, we're gonna leave the development charge out. I'll just pay that.
I never had a problem with the development charge.
Okay, but I'm just asking you from a developer standpoint. You're saying, let's be a little fair. Let's phase it in. I respect that.
Yeah, like, it's not the development charges itself that I have an issue with. I mean, you have to raise them at some point. But again, it's just the matter of timing, and we also have the highest taxes here. So if we're bringing it up to this level, then we are the highest across all municipalities. But like he said, as long as we have something in place to work with us developers, I don't see a problem with it at all.
Well, I think you also, and I'm going to close, Mr. Mayor, you have to take into consideration, Mr. Foley, as well, that a lot of municipalities don't have a full-time fire department. That's a multi-million-dollar operation. They don't have a fire truck that'll go up 10 stories in the air. They want to borrow ours. Now, why would that be? Because they don't want to pay to have one, So they're saying, well, maybe we'll have an agreement with Pembroke. We have a big fire. We'll just call you. Can you bring your $1 million truck up and a few of your guys? I'm not saying that happens, but I'm saying, that's a relationship. We have a shared program with other municipalities, which is good, which is healthy. But I mean, we're providing, we're taxing our taxpayer. And we're saying to other people, well, you can use this when you want, when you feel like it. Well, we're going to keep our cost status quo. It doesn't work that way. And we're the regional center of the hospital, If you're in Laurentian Valley, half of Petawawa was on septic. They're not on sewer. We're on sewer and water. There's an exponential difference in the costs. We have to look at that, Your septic system breaks. What's that going to cost you? 20, 30 grand? You pay a water bill, yes, $1,000 a year, whatever it is. I pay it. I bite my lip and I pay it, but I know I want clean water. And if you don't want that, those are the services that are provided here. So in reference to the, the phasing in of the costs, I think that's good for developers. And I don't think most developers would shy away from that, but as a developer, if I were a developer, I'd say, I don't want that additional cost. It's costing me money. But I believe they have to exist.
Thank you. Councillor Purcell?
Thank you, Chair. It's a touchy subject, and the reason for it's so touchy is because the proximity in terms of our neighbors. You just go to the end of Matheson Street or O'Brien Street, And somebody that purchases a builder that develops in the city of Pembroke, subject to $29,000, and if Laurentian Valley, hopefully that they, look at their development charges, and then all of a sudden, well, then I would be more apt to build in Laurentian Valley because I'm going to save those dollars. And the value of the housing that's going to go up in the city of Pembroke over the 25,000, I'm going to see that at Laurentian Valley as well. And it is on sewer and city water. So, I mean, those are the types of developments that I think is going to have the biggest impact. I think it just makes common sense. I understand the sensitivities. I understand that anytime we ask for dollars for anything, it's hardship on individuals. That being said, we do have to pay for these services and maintain the services. And you can see that municipalities' costs don't just go up, the cost of living, they go up substantially, even sometimes double or triple in terms of the cost of living on an annual basis. So we need to acquire those dollars. And really, it's shame on the province. This is shame on the province because they talk out of the corner of their mouths. They say that they don't like development fees. Mr. Flack said that, doesn't like development fees. But there's no other opportunity for a city, such as a small community, such as the city of Pembroke, to acquire dollars other through the taxation or development fees. Shame on the province. At what point does it become unaffordable? We're already talking about people, if you look for the average rents, the rents are really expensive in the city of Pembroke. We don't have affordable housing. This is going to increase those costs in terms of individuals looking for housing. So by capturing your development fees, great and dandy, but you'll probably be handing it over to the county in terms of low-income housing. Rob Peter to pay Paul. We got to be very careful because I think, it's so easy for a developer just to go to the end of Matheson or the end of O'Brien Street and build there. So we need to be cognizant. A $29,000, that's a $25,000 increase. In terms of an apartment, it's a $13,000 increase in regards to an apartment. Is that going to make our houses a little bit more affordable? Is that going to give people the opportunity to get into an apartment? Because those costs that the builder is going to carry are going to be transitioned over to the end buyer, the renter. So we sit here and we kind of work in silos. And, here we are paying over $4 million to the county to provide us services such as, residential homes for individuals that are geared to income as part of their mandate. And we don't have those options in the city of Pembroke because every time that a developer comes in, we're going to give them the gears. We don't even have a chance to provide low-income housing or affordable housing for individuals. So I just want council to recognize that, yeah, I recognize that maybe we have to look at or increase our development fees, but at what? Are we going to go right to the max and do like a $24,000 increase, $25,000 increase for a single unit? I think that's a little bit absurd knowing our situation that we have with our neighbors next door. So we just got to be cognizant of that and maybe also work with the town of Laurentian Valley to see what they're doing as well, so that we're not robbing Peter to pay Paul, and we're doing vice versa, so that we are getting those dollars that we need to support our services and our roads without driving, these types of developments elsewhere, such as Petawawa, Laurentian Valley, Arnprior, Renfrew. Everybody's looking to develop. It's a short ride down the road for developers. So I just don't want to see those developments leave the city of Pembroke because there's a lot of benefit that comes with those developments through property tax, through engagement, working, providing our hospital services, those kinds of things too. That's where the real value is too. So I just want council to be really cognizant in terms of, those decisions, and that we look at it and we get the feedback, such as our developer here, Mr. Foley, and really kind of consider what makes sense and not think that this is a cash cow. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Worship, I have a question for Mr. Marabella. Thank you for your presentation. The announcement made in March by Prime Minister Carney and Doug Ford, sort of echoing off of what Councillor Purcell pointed out, $8.8 billion to large urban centres with high growth to reduce their development charges. So that's focused for big cities. That there's no indication in that pot of money for communities like Pembroke, correct?
So through the mayor, I'm not sure that's entirely true just yet, because there is parts of the announcement that say even municipalities that don't have DCs are eligible for the funding stream, and it kind of seems to suggest that it is geared to province-wide, but it's not, to your point, not entirely clear because we don't have all the details, but I'm just going by the news clips of what the province says and looking at the provincial releases and the federal releases, but I mean, it does, at least from what I think, it would be province-wide, housing enabling infrastructure for municipalities that reduce DCs, but it still seems application-based, but you know, it's still somewhat speculative at this point because we're reading in between the lines to some degree.
Okay, thank you. So through the mayor, Ms. Soriel, we don't have enough information on that yet, do we? Have you received any?
Through you, no, and I've been working with our consultants on that, and there isn't enough information out there as of yet.
Okay, so I hope there's some funding for small communities like ours. Mr. Foley, thank you for coming. Appreciate it. It's very important that we listen to our developers. Councils don't build houses and apartments, developers do. So it's very important we work with you and similar developers. You were building, and your company are building 48 units on the corner of International Drive and Boundary Road?
Correct.
Okay, so the development fee is $4,089 per unit. So if that was raised to $17,000, that'd be $816,000. That'd be $816,000. One of the reasons you're building is because the development fee is attractive right now, 48 units?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So it's a very delicate balancing act, as everyone around the table has talked about. We have growth faced with growth, but we don't have we have infill, we have some developments going on. Some of the subdivisions are stagnant. I did drive around Mr. LaPointe subdivision a couple of weeks ago, and all the lots are ready to go, and there's 2 homes being built now, and I'm told by the planning department there'll be other construction going on there. Like I said a few weeks ago, I was speaking to another developer, and he said that Petawawa is humming, and they have readily accessible subdivisions. He said if Pembroke was humming, you could charge $12,000, but Pembroke isn't humming. So it's very important that when we do set the rate on May 7th, that we listen to developers, increase it something to maybe the rate of inflation or a bit more, but you don't want to increase it drastically, or I believe, as Councillor Plummer was saying, you won't get the development, because we already have high taxes, and we're right beside Laurentian Valley, as everyone has pointed out, with water and sewer. So it's a very delicate balancing act. It's better to get growth and tax revenue, and if you raise the development fee, the developer gets turned off and they won't build anything. So we have to be very cognizant of that. Thank you.
So either for Mr. Mirabella or for our director, when the matter comes back next time, one thing I would be curious about is when we look at the rate comparisons, and there was a discussion about Laurentian Valley going through the process, what I would be curious about is to consult with Petawawa and Brockville to find out, are they going through the process? Like, where are they at in their development charges cycle? Like, is it going to be coming up this year? Is it coming up next year? Because if you're trying to use those as somewhat of a benchmark, it's kind of hard. Like, are you always behind if you're using them and they're just about to increase theirs, that sort of thing? I don't need an answer this evening. I'm just saying that when it does come forward, that's one thing I would be curious about.
Yeah, to the mayor, we can certainly look at the timing of those bylaws when they were completed or updated, and when they would potentially be on the docket for renewal. So we can provide that information.
Okay, Ms. Soria?
Through you, Mayor Gervais, I would just like to ask our consultant, Andrew, if he could clarify. So affordable housing, if somebody's building affordable housing, are they exempt from development charges?
Through the mayor, Colleen, yes, they are exempt if they qualify as affordable under the definition under the act. So there is provincial bulletins to make this more complicated, but the province releases bulletins on the affordability criteria in terms of the price thresholds. So if you meet that criteria, those units and the affordable price or rental price, you are exempt from the payment of DCs. Second to that, you do have to enter into a 25-year agreement to ensure that those units will remain affordable over that period. So it's exempt, yes, with some contingencies and qualifications associated with it.
Through you, once again, there is a member of the public that would like to ask a question. I don't know if it's too late now or if you'd entertain that.
If a member of the public wants to speak to it, this is a public meeting, and then effectively, we've got three more agendas to get through, so if someone wants to take a few minutes to address the issue at hand of development charges, I'm happy to do so.
Thank you. I won't be long. I appreciate. Oh, okay. Thank you, Colleen. I just wanted to mention the benefit to Pembroke of the Canada-Ontario Partnership to Build Fund, that $8.8 billion fund. It was announced recently on March the 30th. And from what I understand, this program provides infrastructure funding specifically to support housing growth, and it prioritizes municipalities that will commit to reducing their development charges by 30 to 50% for at least 5 years. No, sorry, I'm sorry, 3 years. So that funding is available more broadly, and it also includes rural municipalities. So I would encourage the city to explore those options. It is brand new, and there's an application process, and based on what I understand, it looks quite promising. So maybe that can offset some DCs and get some housing built. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you for that. And as I say, with three other agendas on the wings, if any individual wishes to be notified of council's decision, please contact the director, Ms. Sorio, at City Hall, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn this public meeting of council. I have the deputy mayor, seconded by Councillor Plummer. Those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.
evening, everyone. Welcome to the Operation Committee meeting of April 21st. Called to order. Are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Yes, Councillor Purcell.
I'm declaring an interest in item, 7E. 7F, sorry.
7F. Okay. Any others?
Nope, I'm sorry, it's a council meeting. My apologies. Not the
Fine.
operations meeting.
Traction on that one. Okay. All right. Okay, so no pecuniary interest then. Okay, motion to approve tonight's meeting agenda. The Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councillor Frenier. Those in favor? Approved. Approve the minutes of the Operation Committee meeting of March 17th. Councillor Jacquinot and Councillor Keel. Those in favor? Approved. Any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none. First up, presentations, delegations. The Mayor take the first one to pass to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good evening, members of council, staff, and members of the public. The City of Pembroke is fortunate to have many caring, dedicated, and faithful council members over the years who are passionate about Pembroke and show their passion by choosing to run and to serve on municipal council. Councillor Jacquinot is one of those dedicated council members who have served our community that he obviously loves so much. Councillor Jacquinot has served as a council member for the residents and businesses of Pembroke for an awesome 25 years this year. Councillor Jacquinot has served as a councillor, as deputy mayor, as mayor, so he's run the gambit of different positions on our council. And in those capacities, he has served our beautiful community. He has served on a variety of different committees and boards in addition to council, always bringing great insight, knowledge, and thought to difficult discussions at hand. One such organization is the Knights of Columbus, just to name only one of many different organizations that you would find Councillor Jacquinot at in his personal capacity. He has served the community, doing so, drawing on a variety of backgrounds from personal life as well as other venues to serve him well in making those informed decisions about various matters. His unique life experiences has assisted him in bringing his own unique personal perspective to discussions at hand, which I and all of council value greatly. Councillor Jacquinot, you exemplify what it means to be a leader in your community, and the residents will never fully understand how you tirelessly advocate for all of them in many different ways, but we do. And for that, I just wanted to express that we are eternally grateful. And for that, if you would come forward, I have a number of presentations to make to you. So, members of the public, Councillor Jacquinot, I did communicate with, first up, our Member of Parliament to express the commitment that you have to the beautiful city of Pembroke. And Ms. Gallant was quick to provide me with a scroll saying, Councillor Edward Jacquinot, 25 years anniversary, City of Pembroke. Congratulations on reaching an impressive milestone, 25 years in municipal politics, serving first as mayor and then as a councillor. This achievement reflects not only longevity, but a deep and sustained commitment to public service, community growth, and responsible leadership. Wishing you continued strength and inspiration as you carry forward your work. Here's to everything you've accomplished and as to what lies ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I then communicated with our member of provincial parliament, and he provided me with this scroll. He couldn't be here because he's at the legislature this evening. Certificate of congratulations presented to Councillor Jacquinot on the occasion of 25 years in municipal politics. Please accept my sincere congratulations as you celebrate commitment and dedication to the City of Pembroke as Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and now as a Councillor.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And not to be outdone, the Corporation of the City of Pembroke takes pride in presenting this scroll to Councillor Ed Jacquinot. Congratulations on celebrating 25 years of dedication and selfless service to the residents of the City of Pembroke. Signed by myself and the CAA.
Thank you.
And you always wear Pembroke on your sleeve. Well, it's on your chest. Oh, you're welcome.
May I say a few words from the table?
Oh, most certainly.
I'm going to go down below.
You're
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. As I always say to the staff, did you reach out and touch somebody today? So thank you, Your Worship, and members of council. You've reached out and touched me, and you changed my physiology. I'm really honored to, and surprised totally, to see my family here as well. Thanks for coming out. And being a counselor, you know, there's no greater honor than serving others. I've always said that. And my wife said to me today, what time's the council meeting? Maybe I'll watch it on TV. And usually she's watching a soap opera or something to do with home renovation. But anyway, I want to recognize my dear spouse, Georgianne. She's behind me 100%. We've been through some good times, bad times, and we're still around. We're still kicking. That's the main thing. And I think we love each other enormously, and that's what makes a difference in life. You got a good, strong partner, you will succeed. You can't do it alone. My brother-in-law, Maurice Leger, from retired, he's the guy that got me into politics, and there were days I cursed him. He said, you know, you're a young guy, you should maybe run for City Hall. I said, wow, what am I going to do? So I researched it, and sure enough, and I mean, on his recommendation, I ended up being here for 25 years. Morris is a retired, top principal with one of the major engineering firms across Canada, Stantec. They have projects right across the world, from the PEI Bridge to stuff in the Far East, and he traveled a lot during his life. Thank you, Mo, for coming. And thank you for giving me the initiative to run. My grandchildren, of course, and my son, Tony, who's here, and his wife, Adrian, and my grandson, William, and my other son in Ottawa, Marshall, works for Loblaws. Tony is an educator. He's a principal in Westmeath. Isn't that odd that the mayor comes from Westmeath and you're now in Westmeath? But I know Tony just loves the smaller school atmosphere, and I guess one of the reasons I never left the west end of Pembroke, I just moved one door over. We built a house, is because it was like Urbane Street. Mordecai Rickler, who said, this is a neighborhood. And how do you express that? If you've read any Mordecai Rickler stuff, you'll know that he talks about people and commitment. And I know that when I get up in the morning on George Street, and if I fell into the ditch, and Morris always said there should be storm sewers there, I know that somebody would pick me up. They wouldn't step over me. And I know when I get up in the morning and I look to the left of me or to the right of me, and my neighbor's there, they're going to say good morning. I know that. I don't know if that exists everywhere, but it exists where I live. And people often said to me, why don't you move? You're the mayor, you're living in the West End, it's sort of a decrepit part of the community. I said, these are my people. Why would I leave the people I love? So I'm still there. Anyway, grandchildren, again, my son Marshall and his wife Karen in Ottawa. I'm sure they'll probably be watching this on YouTube or TikTok or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I have 5 wonderful grandchildren. I've got Alex and my oldest grandson in Ottawa, and Zachary. This guy's attending university in Nipissing in North Bay. And Zachary in Ottawa is attending Ottawa U. Our other granddaughters, Macy and Isabella, wonderful young women, wonderful family. We're very fortunate. I'm going to cut it short. I know the mayor doesn't allow me to talk too long, but I got to get 25 years in, Your Worship. It's going to take a minute. Where else would you get the opportunity to work with fine people, Councillors always have their own opinion, but I know that when we leave here, whatever discussion's taken place, perhaps sometimes it's heated, it's left here. We leave here as people, and I hopefully think as friends. We all have our differences of opinion, but that's what makes a strong council. If everybody went along with everything, it'd be just mundane. It wouldn't mean anything. So discuss the issues, talk about it, argue it out. Sometimes been hot and heavy, but I've never left here saying, geez, I hate that person, I don't like them. I've always had respect for my subordinates and my peers, of course. where else would you get the opportunity as a little guy from the West End? My father was a blue-collared worker, an immigrant, you know, who spent 5 years of his life in a forced labor camp. And there I am, first-generation son. I'm the mayor. I can't express to you what that meant to them, you know, and to me. But anyway, God bless them. They were good people, and they never, even after the war, they never held any animosity to the people that were their overseers. They forgave them, you know. And to me, I said, how can you do that? You suffered for 5 years. You didn't know whether you're going to live or die. He said, because you can't live that way. Anyway, being the mayor, I would never have thought of my life that I would have had the opportunity, along with my spouse, to meet His Royal Highness King Charles and Lady Diana and then Lady Camilla. I've met 3 prime ministers who've been, I've had one here in my office, Harper, Chrétien, and who's the other one? Martin. You know, Martin was a Pembroke boy. He spent his summers here working at the sawmill. So good people. And but I often said to myself, here I am. I'm just a little notch in the wheel. How come me? You know, to meet all these people. You know, people strive to meet these people all their lives. And I didn't try. It just happened, you know. I said it was, I guess it was fate. You'd call it fate or karma or destiny or whatever it is. But this community will continue to grow under the leadership of fine people such as yourselves. I will not be here next term. I'm going to actually retire. Hopefully, if I make it, I'll be 75 in July. And I often said to my wife, she said to me many times I'd come home, how can you put up with that nonsense, you know? People throwing things at you, verbally assaulting you, insulting you. And when I'd come home at night, most times she'd be in bed and I'd be talking. And she'd say, who are you talking to? And I was talking to all those confrontational issues that happened to me during the day. And I said to them, no matter what they were, I said, you see this doorstep across my bedroom? I said, I won't use the expletive. I won't use the expletive, but I said, you have to stay here because I know when I get up in the morning, you'll still be there. And when Georgianne, you could attest to that, when my head hit that pillow, I was gone. I wasn't thrashing and thinking about those things. And in the morning I woke up, I said, well, you're still here, aren't you? Let's go. So, but anyway, it's been a real pleasure and an honor. And many times I felt guilty, you know. My grandchildren would say, Papa, where are you going? I said, I have to go to council. They're sitting down for a meal. I said to myself, what am I doing, you know? But I try to instill in them the fact that you have to serve. If you want to be, you know, contribute to society, you have to give something back. And I said, if you don't want to serve, don't put your hand up. And I said, I have to leave here. I would sooner stay here with you, but I made an oath and a commitment to the people that voted for me. And I said, I got to go there. But you know what? We've had a pretty good life. You know, we've met, we've gone ice fishing, we've done some wonderful things together. And for that, I thank all the people that voted for me. And they lied. Some of them lied because they said, when I lost the election, oh, we all voted for you. I said, well, some of you must be liars because I didn't get in. But anyway, it was a challenge at times. It was, to say it wasn't invigorating would be a lie. It's very exciting. Any young people out there thinking about running for council? Young people like Plummer there or Keel, or I'm saying younger. But you know, we need a good mix. Deputy mayor, of course, and the mayor, you know, there's going to be something going on there, I understand, but I'm not quite sure. But anyway, serve your community, do your best, stick your neck out, and when it hurts, do it anyway, because it'll make your community better. So God bless everyone, and thank you for this honor. Thank you. And a real surprise. Stunned me.
Councillor Fernie?
I just want to say a few words before the family goes. So I probably have known Councillor Jackno the longest around this table, and maybe I'm being facetious, but I do believe I have known him the longest. I worked with him at CHRO TV many, many years ago. He always brought a sense of humor into the workplace. But what I just want to say about Ed is I hope we keep in contact with each other, because you are a man with a huge heart. And in my darkest times during my life, you have always reached out to me. You've reached out to my family members who are struggling. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, it really means a lot to me. We were not just, co-counselors together. You were my friend, and you've become a friend of my family. So I love you, and thank you for sharing him with us all these years. And good luck. And you announced tonight that you're not running. And on the heels of that, you and I are retiring together this year, because I will definitely 100% not be seeking re-election. Now, I have said that the last 3 elections. But the social times, you're right. There's good times and there's bad times as councillors. We always mean what's best, but sometimes we are attacked personally. And so I am taking a break. I'm going to enjoy my grandchildren and my family. And thank you for being around this table for 25 years with me. So thank you.
We'll take a 5-minute. Thank you and welcome back to the Operations Committee meeting. Next up in the presentations, we have Megan Sutherland from the Business Development Officer. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council, and thank you for having me here today. My name is Megan Sutherland. I am with Renfrew County Community Futures, and my role is Business Development Officer. We appreciate the opportunity to be here and to share a brief overview of who we are, what we do, and how we support small businesses and communities across Renfrew County. You can go, thank you. RCC FDC is part of the Community Futures Network. It is a national network funded by the Government of Canada. There are 267 offices across the Community Futures Canada footprint, including 60 in Ontario, all focused on delivering local solutions for local economies. Here in Renfrew County, we've been doing this work since 1986, supporting businesses, employment, and community economic development for 4 decades. You are awesome, Sean. Thank you. Our role and mandate, our core is designed to support business enterprises, community-based economic development, and employment growth. We do this through a combination of financing, business counseling, and community economic development initiatives tailored specifically to meet the needs of Renfrew County. Our work is driven locally and decisions are made locally, which allows us to be responsive to the realities of rural and small town business. One of our primary services is small business financing. We can provide loans up to $300,000 to support viable business ventures. We encourage clients to explore traditional banking first, but where banking doesn't fit or it's not available, we can help fill those gaps. Our financing can support equipment and machinery purchases, real estate acquisitions, business expansions, working capital, startup costs, for example. We're also very in tune to the needs of our communities that we're working with. Recently, we just increased our threshold for the CIP matching program loan that we have in response to the City of Pembroke increasing your grant program. So it's just a very recent example of how we like to work with our municipalities and remain flexible. Since the inception of our loan program, we've advanced almost $50 million in loans across Renfrew County in the last 40 years. We've leveraged just close to $44 million in additional financing and helped created over 5,500 jobs in the county. These numbers reflect not just lending activity, but the broader economic impact of supporting local entrepreneurs. So what makes us different? There are a few key things that differentiate us from traditional financial institutions. So first, our loan applications are reviewed and approved locally. All of our, and all supervision and decision-making is handled in-house. I want you to think about that for a moment and pause. I'm a 20-year banker, so I can relate to this very deeply. If you've ever gone through financing, especially as a small business owner, and especially through your first 0 to 5 years, it is incredibly difficult to get advice, but also financing. And so having someone who understands your local community, how the dynamics work, is absolutely integral to getting financing completed, because we look at more than just how much money you're going to make. We look at the viability, the economic impact, the job creation, and many more facets as well. The local flexibility in-house allows us to be flexible for clients in their need when they have issues. So we do things that regular financial institutions just wouldn't do, because we have the availability of that local decision-making happening within our team. Second, we can offer more flexible security requirements and payment terms, while still maintaining responsible lending practices. Third, we provide financing to most industries, as well as working closely with community partners to ensure businesses are connected to the supports that they need to succeed. The other layer of what we do is community economic development. So beyond individual businesses, we're actively involved in community economic development. We work alongside municipal leaders, community organizations, and other key stakeholders to develop community economic development plans, support value-added activities, and encourage diversification and expansion into new sectors. Our goal is to strengthen the overall economic resilience of Renfrew County, not just individual enterprises. Very unique service that we offer is business counseling support. So in addition to the financing, we also offer business counseling support services. So these are one-on-one business advisory services, which are 100% free. So again, I say the value of advice and experience, I don't know if you can really put a dollar on that. And the fact that it is available to anyone in the county for free, it's a highly underutilized service, as well as our financing, to be very candid. We have money that we want to spend in our communities, and we have it in abundance. So this is, I think the main ask for tonight is that you think of us. And some people are away. If we can't do it, we're going to find the community partners that can. Or we'll get them to a point where they can be funded or steer their ship the right direction if there's something that's not going right. Or one of my favorite components of the counseling is celebrating in the success that a business owner has accomplished as a result of the work that we've done together. We also hold workshops and seminars and referrals to our partner organizations that have specialized supports. So these services are to small and medium-sized businesses throughout Renfrew County and are designed to help entrepreneurs build strong, sustainable operations. So in closing, we are here as a partner for businesses, for municipalities, and for the broader community. We welcome referrals, collaboration, opportunities to work together to support economic growth locally. Our contact information is included here. You can also find us if you do a quick Google, and we will never not answer your email, pick up a phone call, answer a text. So I want to thank you again for your time today. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Chair. Well, Megan, thank you. Seeing you around community, you're heavily involved, and you've been banking for quite a while. And this is a wonderful, wonderful group. And the $300,000 maximum, what kind of industry, like varied industries, would that be given to the maximum 300,000, and what generally type of business do you finance? Like,
So that's a great question. So I can give you direct examples of loans that are going to decision on Thursday. One is a spray foam company, another one is a farming industry, another one is a health services clinic that's looking to move into Pembroke. We have a broad, vast layering of industries. I would say often we are service focused. It just seems to be the industry that seems to come to us the most. Manufacturing would probably be the one that we do the least, just simply for the fact that the financing need is quite substantial. But we definitely, agriculture, retail services, development, a lot of different options for people.
right, well, that's wonderful, and it's great to have that service, and we really need to use it more.
Councillor Fenny?
Yes, through the chair, thank you for your presentation. Do you work at all with Enterprise Renfrew County or Summer Company?
Yes, we do. So they're one of our unique partnerships. So I'm actually one of the judges on the startup program, which is a very cool program. I love it. But no, we work hand in hand with Enterprise Renfrew County on a weekly basis.
That's great. Yeah, no, I was a judge few years in a row for Summer Company, and it was really great. Yeah. Thank you very much for your presentation, and I'm sure that we could collaborate somehow. You know, we have people coming to us for CIP grants. Maybe we could just delve a little more into what they're starting and let them know about your organization.
That's all we ask.
Yeah. Thank you.
Councillor Keel?
Collaboration is always key. I know we have a great economic development officer here that we could probably put you in touch with.
Yes? Okay.
But so the mayor and I sit on the economic development committee, and I know this term there's been a real focus on that. My personal focus, sort of a pet project, of course, is the recruitment of young professionals and skilled trades. Not just an issue that we're having, but I know across rural and small town Ontario, that you know, it's whether you call it the brain drain or those kinds of things. Are there opportunities for young professionals and whatnot, if they do want to relocate home, that there's services and whatnot available, not just in the big cities?
I love that question. So 100% there is. Of the loans that we financed last year, I'd say about 65% of them were startups, which is really exciting. And I'm 43 and these people were all younger than me. So it's really exciting to see that. What I also find very exciting around the county, and I'm sure you've experienced this through your communications with the community, is that we have a lot of highly specialized, unique trades that you don't see anywhere else, and they're like hidden little gems. So I would say that definitely we are in to support those types of companies, any company, quite honestly. But yes, the development of bringing people back into the community is definitely a focus for us. And I would say that the traction, I've only been here in the role for a year, but what I've seen in the first year is very, very exciting.
Councillor Giacono?
Thank you, Megan. Very interesting. One of the largest exports of Renfrew County is cattle. And I wasn't aware of that till I was at a cattle barn and I was talking to a farmer and he said, yeah, we ship a lot of cattle out, you know. And the other thing is some of the milkers, people that are milking cows today are going robotic. Do they have access to your funding and that $300,000, or do they go through Agriculture Canada if they're switching from, you know, the manual operated milking machines to the robotic machine?
So yes, Farm Credit Canada is typically where they're going to go first because they will do larger scale financing. However, the dairy farm that we just did, there's a legislative change coming to old tie stall barns in 2027 where they have requirements that they can't be tied in. So we did $300,000 for him to facilitate an offshoot to his barn so that they're meeting the minimum requirements of movement per day so that they meet the Ontario regulation. So I see from a $300,000 could be a large sum of money to some, but in farming business, it's a drop in a bucket. So we do a lot of the kind of micro ag financing is what I would call that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments? Seeing none, then I will say thank you very much for your presentation tonight.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have a presentation from 273 Victoria Street Concerns, Carolyn Zai and Krista Zingle. Welcome.
Hello, and thank you so much for having us here, for taking the time to listen to us. My name is Carolyn Z, and I'm here with my neighbor, Krista Zingle. We both live at 44 Isabella and 36 Isabella, respectively. I'd really just like to first acknowledge Councillor Ed Giacono earlier when you said that you really valued your time here. I'm paraphrasing, but you're sticking your neck out for things that you truly believe in and for others who you're trying to represent, whose interests you're trying to represent. And that really stuck out to me. It is in that spirit that my neighbor and I are here today. We represent ourselves, of course, but also a cohort of very concerned residents whose interests and perspectives we would be remiss to not raise today at this council.
Thanks, Carolyn. Good evening, Mayor Gervais and members of council. I want to begin by saying that I'm encouraged by the thoughtful discussion that emerged last week from council on this file. Several councillors have shown leadership through transparency and consistency. And I believe that we have a real opportunity to build on those contributions for a stronger outcome for the entire community. Councillor Keel highlighted the difficulties that neighbors have experienced and the need for openness. And Deputy Mayor Abdallah has stayed consistent with his long-held position on this matter reflecting a great deal of integrity. Councillor Purcell proposed a licensing bylaw that could establish clear standards and accountability for facilities that are serving vulnerable populations. So these efforts point towards a balanced approach that supports essential services while protecting neighborhoods at the same time. One area where I believe that we can improve is transparency. These negotiations on 273 Victoria Street have been happening for almost a year. Yet, from the original lease in 2020, which was negotiated and approved largely in closed session as well, through subsequent negotiations, handling of complaints, the lawsuit, the minutes of settlement now, and now for this staff report, the community's been given very little to really no opportunity for meaningful input or collaboration. The announcement of last week's meeting came with extremely short notice, which is why you're seeing us here only this evening, which is after Council has already voted to accept the minutes of settlement. And this limited time frame makes it really difficult for affected residents to participate meaningfully. And when major decisions affecting a residential neighborhood are made without broad consultation, especially on a dead-end street that includes 2 daycares, a school, a library, a senior center surrounded by private residences, it can lead to unintended consequences for everybody, including the vulnerable people. Greater openness from the outset could have helped build broader understanding and stronger, sustainable solutions. The current staff report recommending the sale also raises some important questions. The first one is the pending litigation. So not long ago, Carolyn and I, through our counsel at SKS Law, sent a formal demand letter, a formal legal demand letter to both the Grind and the City of Pembroke, detailing ongoing nuisance, trespass, bylaw violations causing harm to our properties and our quality of life. We have not yet filed a civil claim because the outcome of this whole decision really does influence any next steps. So our formal legal demand letter with supporting documentation wasn't even acknowledged. We sent it twice to the City of Pembroke. We didn't even receive a response or an acknowledgement of receipt. And to our knowledge, it was not even brought forward here to Council. So providing complete information supports better decision-making for everyone. I'm sure we could all agree on that. Council should have a full picture of any potential legal litigation exposure. You need to be advised that there's more than one litigation exposure here in this case, and if you weren't advised of that, you should be asking the same question alongside with me. This is material financial information for you that you deserved prior to your vote to accept the minutes of settlement on the sale of 273 Victoria Street. The report projects a net gain of approximately $177,800, and it's already been voted on how the funds will be used, despite, once again, zero community collaboration with the directly affected taxpayers and residents and users who live, work, and play in our little neighborhood. Already decided. Second, the city's position appears constrained by the lack of formal documented lease breach notices over 3.5 years, despite repeated complaints regarding bylaw violations, disturbances, traffic issues, and more serious incidents, including one of which that the Crown attorneys asked me to provide a victim impact statement for this month. Documenting breaches is a standard property management practice. Without it, enforcement options become limited. This is Property Management 101. This report does not fully explain this context for council or for the public. Taxpayers deserve clarity on why the city feels that it has no choice here. That you painted yourself in a corner. You had no options to terminate the lease. Well, there was no lease enforcement. The levers were there. We requested it formally, repeatedly. And yet, it didn't happen. So, as another example, the minutes of settlement refer to, and this is small, but it refers to biannual meetings with stakeholders. And given how easily this term is misunderstood, right, to mean once every 2 years versus semi-annually or twice annually, you know, this again highlights why a short pause for proper review and consultation is needed before finalizing, you know, the sale. It mentions a good neighbor agreement and a code of conduct, but what do those look like? We don't remember being consulted on what that looks like, considering it directly affects us. Are there mechanisms to enforce this code of conduct or this good neighbor agreement? Are there protocols for escalating issues if they're in contravention to these agreements? We don't know. And we don't know because we weren't told. Everything was again behind a curtain. The site at 273 Victoria Street is located, again, I'm going to reinforce it, on a dead-end residential road surrounded by private residences directly adjacent to a library, a senior center, peaceful seniors accessing their beloved recreation facility at Pembroke's most historical building, Victoria Hall, deserve to be factored into decisions that directly impact them. And I will say it over and over again, the most vulnerable members of our community are children. We have a school, 2 daycares, and a library, and residents' children as well. They must remain central to any long-term decision. I said this on January 17th, 2023, the first time that I sat here. So I respectfully ask council, we respectfully ask council, to vote no on this proposed sale, or at minimum, defer the decision for proper due diligence. Deferring is going to give us all time to prioritize this licensing bylaw with genuine community input in this matter. This is input that leads to real community acceptance and buy-in. You're going to have a very hard time, and so is the grind, and so is this neighborhood, and everybody that it serves. Really difficult time achieving any meaningful sense of support or buy-in when the most directly impacted neighborhood has been kept entirely out of the process, with key negotiations having occurred 100% behind closed doors again. This closed approach is precisely how we arrived at the challenges that we're having today. You've gotten to know us over 3.5 years. You've seen the communications. You know how this has affected us, and all we've been doing is really begging for transparency and a seat at the table. And it happened again. The neighborhood most affected deserves a seat at the table. This is what democracy requires from our elected officials. Not just for fairness, but to create solutions that actually work for everybody. This pause will allow time to develop a practical enforcement framework that supports a bylaw, a new care services provider bylaw that hasn't even been voted on yet. We're not feeling incredibly confident here, right? So I think that if we take this time to pause, we can negotiate from a position of greater sense on all sides. We want services for the vulnerable and for those in need to be sustainable. We don't want them to be put in harm's way. I mean, there's litigation risks all over the place. We've been really patient. We've been really trying to go through the proper channels right? If the grind is committed to being a good neighbor and serving our whole community in an effective way, then they should easily welcome this opportunity to pause and get the standards right. Now let's get it right. For the community that they impact, they should want to get this right. I would expect that they would. Right? They care about the community. On a personal level, ongoing disturbances and other issues 100% do continue to affect daily life. And these real impacts on residents highlight why professional management and accountability matter. This isn't about opposing services for those in need. Absolutely not. We're a generous community. What it is about, it's about ensuring that they're delivered, these services, with proper oversight so that they can thrive and not be causing unintended harm to the surrounding community. So our requests are as follows. And Council, I respectfully ask you to vote no or table this vote and commit to a more open and comprehensive process. There is still an opportunity to do this. This has been so long, and to abandon ship on proper process and transparency at the 11th hour would be absolutely shameful and a disservice to your positions and a disservice to the community that you were elected to serve. So number one, we request that you advance Councillor Purcell's licensing bylaw with meaningful community consultation involving residents, service providers, and those served from the beginning. Number two, build a robust enforcement framework with adequate staffing, clear protocols, and dedicated resources. Number three, if the sale proceeds later, dedicate those net proceeds of $177,800 to strengthening the bylaw enforcement framework for these facilities. Pembroke can balance compassion for vulnerable people with strong enforceable standards that also protect neighborhoods. You can have both and. It doesn't have to be either or anymore. But a measured pause for complete information, transparency, and proper planning with adequate notice to the public, especially those directly affected, directed notice, please. This is the most responsible governance that's going to serve this entire community. We thank you for your time, and we thank you for your service to this community. And we're open for any questions that you might have.
Any questions from the council members? Any comments? Okay, well, I just will speak from the chair then. Thank you very much for coming in and sharing your concerns. Certainly this council does take seriously what it certainly votes on and understands that there are issues in the community, and we want to make sure that we get it right. So I'm sure this council will think about your comments long and hard, and hopefully we can get back to you with some clarity. So, thank you very much. Yes.
Can I ask a question? Mm-hmm. So, when can we expect to hear back, and from who? Because that's fundamentally what we're asking about, with regards to the sale of public property, and with your, you know, trying to get back to us for clarity. But
well, I think that answer normally would stem on the CAO to respond as a council on whole. I don't think individual members will be, emailing back, because we want to make sure we talk with one voice. So if there are questions and concerns from council, they normally are directed to the CAO, and the CAO would be the proper chain to respond to your any kind of requests or questions for clarity.
And while we're seeking clarity, I'd also like further clarity on what happens if the CAO, let's say, drops the ball and doesn't get back to us, or doesn't really, give the notices for a tenant breaching its lease. What happens then?
Well, I don't have the exact process in front of me that I would know to file that, but I assure you that if you are not, do not receive, if you email and are not received a answer to your question, I'm sure you can take the time to email any other council member, and they can follow up certainly with the CEO. And is there a letter being drafted? Is the information being required? And then we can then follow back. Yes, something's going to work. Certainly, there's any opportunity to email any councillor at any time for further clarity to understand if there's some form of miscommunication. But again, any direction, formal information would be released by the CAO.
And thank you so much for clarifying. What I'm trying to illustrate here is that we've been following that exact protocol for several years now. And what we're asking for today is for council to front load the hard work of figuring out what that process looks like so that individual residents, when they have severe issues directly caused by this council's decision making, so that residents know who to go to and what questions to ask. How do we escalate these issues? Where does it go? When can we expect a response? What are the protocols? What are the enforcement measures? This is what we're asking for. That sense of clarity, so we know when we have problems, and we will, what do we do about them? Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Are you sure there's no questions after all this time and everything that we've been through on this? There's it's silence? There's nothing? Thank you.
Okay. We'll move on to new business. If anyone in the audience wishes to exit, they certainly can, or not welcome to stick around for the rest of the council meeting, but we are going on to next on the agenda. All right, first up in the new business section, Pembroke Regional Hospital Parking Bylaw Enforcement Officers. Director Sorio.
So the recommendation is that the City of Pembroke's Operations Committee endorse and recommend to Council the repeal of 2026-15, which is the current bylaw appointing bylaw enforcement officers for the Pembroke Regional Hospital, and it be replaced with a new bylaw, 2026-35, adding Hayden Kenny as a bylaw enforcement officer. As you'll remember, we just received a request from the parking company at the Pembroke Regional Hospital to amend the bylaw for a new bylaw enforcement officer. That enforcement officer has now left and is being replaced by Hayden Kenny for enforcement of the hospital parking areas. So a bylaw will be before council this evening, adding Hayden as the new bylaw enforcement officer for the Pembroke Regional Hospital.
Motions? Go ahead.
I think we're going to compete for making the motion, but I would move that we approve the recommendation that's been provided by staff.
Councillor Keel, second. Any further comments or questions? Yes, Councillor Keel.
Is there any way for us to delegate authority to appoint these bylaw enforcement officers so that this isn't just coming back time after time after time? Like particularly for these parking I would think differently about our general bylaw enforcement, but I mean, these are people ticketing cars, and I'm just curious, can we delegate that authority? Because, I mean, I'm not looking up these individual people. We're not doing background checks around this table. Like, I trust that staff are doing their due diligence with who we're appointing, but I don't know, just for parking tickets, I just find that this constantly coming back is a bit time consuming.
Well, through you, when we go to court, we have to show by bylaw that we are a bylaw enforcement officer, or that they are a bylaw enforcement officer if there is, if a ticket is taken to court. So, I mean, we still require a bylaw to appoint them. So it definitely needs to come to council.
Mayor?
I may, Mr. Chair, how about this as a suggestion, because it's
Okay.
something that I was thinking of as well. I know typically things come to committee first, this is where the heavy lifting is, and then we kick it to council.
Right.
But I struggle to remember any time that this committee has ever said to council, no, don't bring this one forward, because as Councillor Keel says, I know I don't check who these people are, I'm assuming staff does. Is there a way of, when there's, the subject matter is this, bring it straight to council, and I guess worst case scenario, council would say, no, let's kick it back to committee, because, I don't know, we have some debate about it or something, but I don't think you're going to find that. That would at least stave one step.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that's absolutely fine. I can prepare a bylaw, prepare a memo for council, and then you have that memo with the bylaw, and then I don't have to be here then for that. Does that work? Okay.
See a lot of head nods, so we'll do that in the future. So
Okay, thank you.
we did have a mover and a second. We still do need to call the question. Those in favor? Approved. Next up, the agreement to purchase and sale of Trans-Canada Industrial Park, investment attraction.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So on February 17th, 2026, Council and Caucus directed staff to work with Ann Hart Affordable Housing Corporation after their offer to build a neighborhood modular manufacturing hub in our Trans-Can Industrial Park. This is at what is now known as municipally as 0 Upper Valley Drive. Based on the city's industrial park guidelines, the cost for land in the park is $12,000 an acre. This parcel is 1.265 acres, which amounts to $15,180 plus HST, and this is Ann Hart's offer. This meets the permitted M2 zoning of the park as well. The development plan meets the 12% minimum lot coverage requirement of the park. And building is planned to start within 18 months of the land being transferred to the new owner. This sale satisfies the continuation of current economic development, and it's recommended that the Operations Committee endorse and recommend to Council to enter into an agreement of purchase and sale with Ann Hart Affordable Housing for property known municipally as 0 Upper Valley Drive in Trans-Can Industrial Park. Thank you.
I have Deputy Mayor first and Councillor Purcell after.
Thank you. So the size of the facility is about 6,000 square feet?
Yes, yeah, and it meets the 12%
And they're
minimum
going to
lot
employ 15 to 20 tradespeople? Okay.
Yes.
Well, I want to commend staff for working this. It's it's a good news story for Pembroke. A modular housing hub factory to cater to the Upper Ottawa Valley and the Ottawa Valley. Ann Hart is from Vancouver. They've been around 20 years, and they're an affordable housing foundation, and they have a goal of creating over 20,000 homes in the next number of years, I think 10 years. It's a good news story for Pembroke to have this. So I make a motion to accept the recommendation.
Councillor Purcell?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to comment first, and then I'll second. Yeah, this is really exciting for the city of Pembroke because I do think that a lot of different municipalities and organizations are looking at modular home structures to fill a gap. Either it's infilling or providing lower income, affordable housing. So there's some great options here. So kudos to everybody that was involved and our economic development officers and our. I think it's fantastic that we have this opportunity, and I will be seconding the motion. Thank you.
Any further comments? Councillor Fenny?
Yeah, I'll be supporting it. I just have a question through the chair. In most of these purchases of land in the Trans-Can Park, there's a buyback option if this doesn't happen within a certain amount of time. It's not in this body, but is it another appendix of the agreement?
Yes, yeah, it is.
Okay.
So the same, the 18 months.
Perfect. Great. Thank you.
Councillor Jackno? No comment. Any others? Seeing none, then call to question. Those in favor? Approved unanimously. Next up, we got the protection of the municipal public works worker and contractors. Got Mr. Hunter.
Yeah. So the recommendation is a resolution is before council at its meeting of April 21st, 2026 in support of a recommendation by the Association of Ontario Roads Supervisors, AOR, to urge protection and respect for municipal public works and contractors. So the background, so on February 5th, AORs issued a letter to the Ministry of Labour, Immigrations Training and Skills Development, David Pedzinski, and the Solicitor General of Ontario, Michael Kersner. These letters outline the increasing risk to health and safety of public works professionals. So in the discussion, AORS is calling on the province of Ontario to strengthen protection for municipal workers and subcontractors and take a proactive enforcement approach. AORS is encouraging council to formally endorse protections for municipal public workers and contractors. And these similar protections are what are provided to police, fire, and ambulance workers. So AORS is just asking for the same protection through the province of Ontario. If you have any questions, I can answer them, or the Director of Public Works can.
Questions? Okay, motions? Councillor Keel?
So I want to say that I think a lot of people saw the Facebook post a week or two ago. I think it was quite implied by that Facebook post that there was an incident involving one of our staff, and you know, I've got to say I get that there's frustration out there. Councillor Lafreniere and I were just before committee started tonight. We were talking about a recent incident with a property standards matter that did get dealt with, and it got dealt with because our staff was out dealing with things. For however long I'm around this council table, the one thing that I am never going to forget is the staff here at the city that I have met over the last 3.5 years. And they are all extraordinarily dedicated people. They do not deserve some of the absolutely negative, some of the frankly threatening comments that are online, that are hurled at them in public. You know, it's not possible for staff to be everywhere and everything to everybody every moment of the day. But to hear about our staff being verbally abused, being physically assaulted, you know, and Dave, I emailed you right away because it was quite obvious that something had happened, and I just find that kind of behavior to be absolutely disgusting. And I can honestly sit here and say, absolutely honestly, that there is not a staff member on our staff that I have come across in 3.5 years that are not dedicated to their job and to working for the city of Pembroke. Not a single one of them that I have met. And I think if people want to blame people, that's what we're here for. If it's an issue of timing, if it's an issue of staffing, that ultimately comes to us. But I can tell you it is not by any means the individual people that we have on staff. And I've also got to say, as a corollary to making it unpleasant to be in the public workforce, we are having a hard enough time in some areas recruiting and retaining staff. So when you're out there and you're making a public service job, and I spoke to another individual just last night who works for the provincial government about how absolutely hard it is sometimes to be that public face and take the criticism and to take the blowback when they're just trying to do their job. I gotta say, you're making it more difficult for the city to do what you want them to do when you are making the job of working for the city undesirable. So I think I think the temperature needs to come down. I think people need to think before they react. And certainly, you know, certainly Dave and Brian, you know, I don't know what else to say actually, but your staff do an incredible job I know that. I know many people in the city know that. There was a lot of pushback actually to some of those comments of people saying exactly what I'm saying, that they're just trying to do their job. So I appreciate, Dave, you bringing this motion to our attention, and I will be more than happy to support this tonight.
As a motion?
This doesn't say we need a motion. I think it's already on the agenda for tonight. So.
It will be coming to council as an official motion, so it can be passed on accordingly.
Okay, any further comments then? Councillor Frenier?
You know, this has been an ongoing issue, but I think the climate right now, it's terrible, it's disturbing, but there's definitely a climate for hate, you know, and I agree with everything Councillor Keel said. I think that it's always been a problem for the poor city staff that are out there, because let's face it, we've all had jobs where we're in offices or we're doing different things, and maybe you stand around the water cooler and talk for 5 or 6 minutes, you know, a couple of times a day with your coworkers. But if a city worker is seen, it's misconstrued, oh, there was 2 people standing around, or they basically have to go hide when they do get their 15-minute break, because if they're, you know, seen in public getting a coffee. So, I mean, it's got to stop. You're right. I agree. And I mean, I don't know if there should be something posted. I know some businesses you go into, it says that our staff does not tolerate, you know, that kind of thing. So I don't know if that could be even on our website or something of that nature to get that out there, because there's a lot of haters out there. And it's just they are taking out their frustration with everything that's happening in the world. And they not necessarily who they're attacking on social media. So yeah, whatever we can do to help our workers deal with this, because it's not fun. It's not fun.
Councillor Jacquino?
Mr. Chair, I agree with Councillor Fernier. A number of years ago, I had a phone call from a resident, quite irate, and he said, why do you have 2 people out with full wages reading a meter? I didn't know. So I phoned operations, and they said, well, one guy's retiring and the other guy's in training. So there was an obvious reason, you know, that the individual did not know how to read a meter. He was being trained. But the perception is there's 2 city workers getting a big buck and they're abusing the system. And when I called the individual back, he said, geez, I never thought of that. But, you know, you have to communicate with individuals. Thank you.
Okay. Dave? You're on.
Thanks, Brian, for bringing this forward officially. You know, because his is the direct response. Individuals get responded, but it's even the front line in our you know, downstairs in Treasury, recreation staff, and as Councillor Keel mentioned, those, you know, concerns in regards to issues that should come to me or come to our directors, not to the individuals. I was fortunate actually to win a spot in the what was it called? Civility. It was a Civility Leadership Forum that I attended, the Global Civility Summit 2026 last Thursday. And through the whole process, there was little quizzes to help gauge where you're at in your community. And at the end of it, actually, they've given you a roadmap in regards to helping. So a bit in regards to Councillor Frenier's point of view, something that the municipality can take as a proactive step. And so I'll be reviewing this document and seeing what I can bring forward to help with the situation. Signs are one thing, but a lot of it also is on education and training and cultivating, you know, that space where civility thrives in the community. And it's that, you know, attitude that everyone is the government. It's not the government is over here and the community is down here. We're all the government. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, Councillor Purcell?
One last comment in terms of any threats of harm should be addressed with the OPP. And I think that's important that these things get raised with the OPP. So, you know, those individuals that are threatening harm to our workers or individuals that work for the city, they can be rest assured that I will be requesting that they be followed up with a police report. So, thank you.
All right, as this is coming to council, we'll move on. Next up is the tender award for Darcy Street construction. Mr. Lewis, welcome.
Thank you. My apologies for being a bit late, and thanks to the CAO for doing that first report for me. The next one is the Darcy Street reconstruction. The recommendation is that Operation Committee endorse and recommend to council to approve the following: that the Darcy Street reconstruction tender number T26-07 be awarded to McCrae Excavating Limited in the amount of $182,535 plus applicable HST, that being the lowest and responsible bidder. And that the budget shortfall of $25,747.62 be funded from the surplus funds available in the First Avenue resurfacing project. So the financial comment, the 2026 capital budget has an approved budget of $160,000. As tendered, total cost will be $185,747.62. The roads resurfacing tender closed in February, and we had favorable pricing, so the shortfall for Darcy Street can be funded using the available surplus from that tender. The contract was publicly advertised and tendered, with 7 bids being received. Tenders were opened publicly, reviewed, and analyzed using the city's approved procurement policy. And I'll go through the list of bidders that were bids that were received. McCrae Excavating Limited, $182,535. GP Splinter Forest Products Limited, $196,750. Greenwood Paving, $216,917. D-Rock Paving, $218,106.65. Thomas Cavanaugh Construction, $243,000. Dual Construction, $307,700. And Bonashare Excavating Inc., $317,794.90. The increase in submitted bids can be attributed to the increase in volatile fuel market. That carries over into the increases of asphalt and concrete pricing. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Motions? Deputy Mayor?
Just have a question, then I'll make a motion. Through you, Chair, to Mr. Lewis. This project covers the whole street?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's only the first block from Christie Street to Murray Street. That's the portion we're going to do this year, and then we've got plans to do the next block down to Doran Street following that. So.
Okay, thank you. Motion to accept the recommendation.
Councillor Keel? Second. Okay, further comments? Then we'll call a question. Those in favor? Approved. Next up, we got procurement of snowplow of 2027.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Recommendation is that the Operations Committee endorse the pre-procurement of a snowplow combination unit in 2026 for payment and delivery in 2027. There are no immediate financial implications. The approximate cost to purchase is $333,000. It will be included in the 2027 capital budget funded from the fleet reserves. So as we've talked about in the past, truck suppliers and manufacturers continue to experience shortages in available materials, electronic components for the equipment builds. That leads to a long lead time for vehicle orders. Based on the current levels of orders, we anticipate that we wouldn't receive this vehicle until the last quarter of 2027. The life cycle of this is a replacement, and the life cycle replacement for the existing 2014 combination unit. That's what will be replaced. The existing unit was taken out of service in January after the transmission failed. Due to the age of the existing unit, we can't get replacement parts. They're not available in Canada. We'd have to get them from the United States, and it would cost upwards of $40,000 to get that transmission. We did look at some alternatives. We could wait and procure in 2027. We wouldn't expect delivery then until 2028. And we assume financial implications for that would be between $60,000 and $80,000. We'd have to get the transmission, and we'd have to also do replace some other components that are degrading now as the unit is sitting for a number of months not in service. There would also be increased maintenance costs, and parts are becoming difficult to access due to the age of the vehicle. So that would not be something that the Operations Department would recommend.
Councillor Frenier?
I would move that we approve the pre-procurement of the snowplow combination unit in 2026 for payment and delivery in 2027.
Councillor Purcell?
Second that motion?
Any other further comments? Councillor Jacquino?
Mr. Chair, I would presume that some of the funding to go towards that piece of equipment would come from development charges?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd have to check with the treasurer on that to confirm, but our fleet replacement schedule does go into the background study for development charges. So a portion of the equipment, I can't say specifically to this particular piece of equipment, but majority of our equipment does, yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Keel?
So is this coming entirely out of the fleet reserve then? Anticipated to come entirely out of the fleet reserve?
Through the chair, yes, that's the way our fleet replacement schedule works. We put all of the fleet into the replacement schedule, all funded by fleet reserves, and we annually contribute to the fleet reserves to make these purchases.
How healthy is our fleet reserve?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I don't have the number off the top of my head, but we are in good position for the next 3 years. And then we may have some smoothing to do just to make sure that we're not borrowing from ourselves, if I can say it that way. But we are in good shape.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder. Seeing no other further comments, then call to question. Those in favor? Approved. Last item of the night, reallocation of funds, purchase of loader. Show this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The recommendation is that the Operations Committee endorse and approve the following. That the Operations Department proceed with the procurement of a compact wheel loader, and that the budget of $60,000 for the garage hoist be reallocated for this purchase, and the remaining funds required come from the fleet reserves. In 2026 budget, we have $60,000 allocated for the replacement of a garage hoist. The hoist was scheduled for replacement through asset management procedures based on age rather than the condition. The hoist condition has been reviewed. It is still fully operational, and at present there's no concerns with safety or usability. And we will basically just move that replacement into 2027 and replace the garage hoist at that point. Some background: the city's 2014 compact loader sustained significant structural damage due to a fatigue crack on the mounting plate and pin connection that progressed over time, and this past winter the crack failed. While we were carrying the large snow pusher, both arms became twisted and they are permanently deformed. The unit has been taken out of service. It has been structurally compromised and not safe to be used. The compact wheel loader is an important piece of equipment used by the Operations Department. It's also used by the Parks and Recreation Department. In the Operations Department, we use it on both in the roads and fleet section and in the water and sewer section. It's a small loader. It's used for material handling, winter control activities, various summer operations, maintenance of the roads down at Riverside, and a number of other tasks that the Parks Department use it for. Currently, we are renting equipment, similar equipment, to get those tasks done. So we did look at a number of alternatives. The loader arms are structural components. They're designed to carry significant loads. The strength of the arms have been compromised. And even with repair, we figured the loads would have to be restricted, so we wouldn't be able to utilize the piece of equipment for what it is used for now. The failure was a fatigue crack that indicates that the structure is weakening. We would not be able to address that weakening if we were to try and facilitate a repair. So this is not considered a safe or reliable option. We could replace the arms. The estimated cost to replace them is $50,000. That would be with used components, because they don't make make replacements for this old of a unit. The loader is nearing the end of its life cycle. It is scheduled to be replaced in 2028, and the replacement arms would not significantly extend the service life, providing for long-term value. So the recommendation of the Operations Department is to replace the unit. The cost is in the magnitude of $140,000 to $180,000. That would provide a reliable and safe unit for the Operations Department and the Parks and Recreation Department, eliminating the risks associated with a structurally compromised unit. and it's a long-term solution, reducing the likelihood of unplanned downtime and reactive maintenance costs. So we recommend replacement. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Fenny.
I would move we support the recommendation to proceed with the procurement of a compact wheel loader, and then taking that 60,000 from the garage hoist that isn't going to be purchased this year and applying it to that, and then taking the funds required to balance that from fleet reserves. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Second the motion.
Is Mayor?
A quick comment, as our council has talked about before, there's needs and wants, and obviously if operations can't do their job, that's a need, it's not a want, unlike sometimes when we discuss certain other things.
Further comments? Seeing, Councillor Purcell?
In regards to the equipment, 2014 doesn't seem to be that old, a piece of equipment, but is it, I'm just thinking in terms, is it a piece of CAT equipment, or is it a different manufacturer? I'm just wondering in terms of the feasibility, in terms of replacing the arms for the $50,000, but, and is there no approval in terms of the load rating in regards to the lift once it's repaired? I'm just curious.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll try to answer those
Yeah.
questions in order. I can't say for sure it's a CAT. It is a heavy piece of equipment, so it would be similar to a CAT. It may be another brand.
Right.
We can't find new arms. We would have to get used arms. We have been searching for a number of months now to try and locate a set of arms to do the replacement. That was our initial thought, was we were going to replace these arms and move ahead and replace it in 28 or a little bit longer than that. We can't find a set of arms for this. To get a used set of arms, we have located a used set of arms, but we don't know what kind of condition they would be in, whether or not there was stress cracks or something in those, so that would be deemed, in our opinion, unsafe. We have had other pieces of equipment, including trench boxes and so forth, inspected before to ensure reliability and safe. I would guess upwards of $5,000 to $6,000 just to get an engineer to certify those for strength. And even with that, I would be recommending that we reduce loads and usage, which means we wouldn't be able to use the piece of equipment the way we use it now.
And what is the value of the equipment in terms of, disposal of the equipment?
Disposal of a piece of equipment of this nature in good condition would be roughly about $20,000. It's not in good condition. It's not usable as it is right now, and we would make sure that any potential buyer was aware of the situation. I couldn't even guess what it would be worth now.
Actually come off the price then in terms of the dollar value that it'd be sold for?
We wouldn't include it, through you, Mr. Chair, we wouldn't include it as a trade-in or with the company we were going to buy from. We would sell it otherwise.
Okay. Through our disposition of
Yeah,
equipment
exactly.
process.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further from other members of council? Seeing none, call the question. Those in favor? Approved. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Keel, this is worship. Those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Everyone, I'd like to call this meeting of council to order for April 21st. I would ask those who wish and are able to please join me in opening prayer or reflection. Before opening this meeting of council, I would ask those who wish, each in your own way, silently join in a prayer of guidance over these proceedings. Thank you. Are there any disclosed pecuniary interest in relation to this council agenda? Councilor Purcell.
Under bylaws, item F, 268 Isabel Street. I have a conflict of interest. It's a relative that actually has that property.
Fair enough. Any others? Seeing none. Under minutes, we have one set of minutes this evening to approve, which is regular meeting of council April 7th. Entertain a motion. Moved by Councillor Keel, second by the Deputy Mayor. Those in favor? That is carried. Then we have adoption of one set of minutes, which is Operations Committee, March 17th, 2026. Moved by Councillor Purcell, second by Councillor Keel. Those in favor? That is carried. And then we have receiving one set of minutes from a local board, namely the Ottawa Valley Waste Management Board minutes, January 29th, 2026, moved by Councillor Plummer, seconded by Councillor Giacono. Those in favor? That is carried. Brings us to staff and committee reports. First up, tender award T26-07, Darcy Street. Councillor Plummer.
Thank you, Worship. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Giacono, that City of Pembroke Council approve the following. That Darcy Street reconstruction tender T26-07 be awarded to McCrae Excavating Limited in the amount of $182,535 plus applicable HST, being the lowest and responsible bidder, and the budget shortfall of $25,747.62 be funded from the surplus funds available in the First Avenue resurfacing project.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Plummer and seconded by Councillor Giacono that the City Council of Pembroke approve the following: the Darcy Street reconstruction tender T26-07 be awarded to McCrae Excavating in the amount of $182,535 plus HST, being the lowest and responsible bidder, and that the budget shortfall of $25,747.62 be funded from surplus funds available in the First Avenue resurfacing project. Councillor Plummer, did you wish to speak to the...
This item was discussed earlier in Operations Committee.
Does anyone else wish to address it? Seeing none, call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Brings us to bylaws. First up is 2026-35, appointment of officers to enforce parking. Councillor Purcell.
Thank you, Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Keel that bylaw 2026-35, a bylaw to appoint the municipal bylaw enforcement officers to enforce parking lot provisions in the parking lots associated with the Pembroke Regional Hospital be adopted and passed, and further that said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Thank you.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Purcell and seconded by Councillor Keel that bylaw 2026-35, a bylaw to appoint municipal bylaw enforcement officers to enforce parking provisions in the parking lots associated with Pembroke Regional Hospital be adopted and passed, and further said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Purcell.
Straightforward, Mayor.
Anyone else wish to speak to this one? Seeing none, those in favor? That is carried. Next is 2026-36, user fees and charges. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Andrew Plummer, that bylaw 2026-36, a bylaw to establish fees and charges on persons for payment of municipal services, activities, and use of municipal property for the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further, that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Thank you. Moved by the Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councillor Plummer that bylaw 2026-36, a bylaw to establish fees and charges on persons for payment of municipal services, activities, and use of municipal property for the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. At the April 7th meeting, Planning and Development Committee meeting, the Property Standards Bylaw and False Alarm Bylaws, and adding them to the city's user fee, the fees were increased. Secondly, the committee agreed to increase the property standards admin fee, false alarm, and a $20 fee to cover staff time to replace a parking permit.
Anyone else wish to speak to this? Seeing none, call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Brings us to 2026-37, amend police services false alarm bylaw. Councillor Frenier.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Ian Keel, that bylaw 2026-37, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2014-12 as amended, being a bylaw to establish a system for the reduction of false alarms police services in the city of Pembroke, be adopted and passed. And further, that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Moved by Councillor Frenier and seconded by Councillor Keel, that bylaw 2026-37, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2014-12 as amended, being a bylaw to establish a system for the reduction of false alarms police services in the city of Pembroke, be adopted and passed. And further, the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Frenier.
Yes, at the April 7th Planning and Development Committee meeting, the committee approved the removal of prescribed fees in the property standards bylaw and false alarm bylaw, and adding them to the city's user fee bylaw. Bylaw 2026-37 specifically speaks to the false alarm police services fee, changing from $300 to $475, which includes a $20 administration fee. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this one? Seeing none, call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Next one is 2026-38, amend property standards bylaw and administration fees. Councillor Jacquinot.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Plummer, that bylaw 2026-38 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2021-25 as amended, being a bylaw for prescribing standards for the maintenance and occupancy of property within the city of Pembroke, be adopted and passed. And further, that said bylaw be signed by yourself, the clerk, and sealed with the seal of the corporation, waiting your signature, Your Worship.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Jacquinot, seconded by Councillor Plummer, that bylaw 2026-38, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2021-25 as amended, being a bylaw for prescribing standards for maintenance and occupancy of property within the city of Pembroke, be adopted and passed. And further, said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Jacquinot.
Thank you, Your Worship. This was discussed at the April 7th Planning and Development Committee meeting, and I don't think there's anything else to move forward with, unless there's questions. Thank you.
Okay, is there any comments from members of council? Seeing none, call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Brings us to 2026-39 regarding 365 Matheson Drive. Councillor Keel.
Your Worship, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Purcell, that bylaw 2026-39, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2020-05 of the Corporation of the City of Pembroke, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and the character, location, and use of buildings and structures in the City of Pembroke, be adopted and passed. And further, that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Moved by Councillor Keel and seconded by Councillor Purcell, that bylaw 2026-39, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2020-05 of the Corporation of the City of Pembroke, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and the character, location, and use of buildings and structures in the City of Pembroke, be adopted and passed. And further, the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Keel.
Your Worship, this was recommended to council following an application by the property owner to redesignate this land. I believe it was from an R4 to an R3.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Brings us to 2026-4268 Isabella Street. Let the minutes show that Councillor Purcell is leaving the table. Councillor Keel.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor
L.
Pat L. That bylaw 2026-40, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2020-05 of the Corporation of the City of Pembroke, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and the character, location, and use of buildings and structures in the City of Pembroke, be adopted and passed. And further, that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Do you want to finish that?
Okay.
Moved by Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Lafreniere, that bylaw 2026-40, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2020-05 of the Corporation of the City of Pembroke, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and the character, location, and use of buildings and structures in the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the Corporation. Councillor Keel.
Your worship, if memory serves me right, this is a mixed-use building on Isabella Street that currently has commercial on the lower level. It was recommended by PAC and the Property Standards Committee that mixed use be permitted on the lower level to allow it to also be used as residential.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this one? Seeing none, call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Let Councillor Purcell return to the table. Brings us to 2026-41, transfer of ownership. Councillor Jacquinot regarding 273 Victoria Street.
Thank you, Your Worship. Members of Council, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Plummer, that bylaw 2026-41, being a bylaw authorizing the execution of the necessary documents to transfer ownership of a portion of the premises known municipally as 273 Victoria Street, Pembroke, Ontario, from the Corporation of the City to the Grind, Pembroke, be adopted and passed, and further said bylaw be signed by yourself and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation, and awaiting your signature, Your Worship.
Okay, so moved by Councillor Jacquinot, second by Councillor Plummer, that bylaw 2026-41, a bylaw authorizing the execution of the necessary documents to transfer ownership of a portion of the premises known municipally as 273 Victoria Street, Pembroke, Ontario, from the Corporation of the City of Pembroke to the Grind, Pembroke, be adopted and passed, and further said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the Corporation. Councillor Jacquinot.
Your Worship, this is here for ratification. There's been a lot of discussion on the issue, and it's up to council to proceed with ratifying it, and it's before us. Thank you.
Thank you. And then other individuals wishing to speak to it. At first, I have Councillor Purcell.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm presenting a motion to defer the transfer of the ownership of 273 Victoria Street until such time that the care establishment bylaw is approved by council with meaningful community and care establishment engagement.
So there's a motion to defer. Deputy Mayor, are you seconding it?
Yeah, I'll second the motion.
Okay. Councillor Keel, is it about the deferral motion? Yes, Councillor Keel.
Your Worship, I move to amend that motion to defer it to the next council meeting on May 6th? 5th, on May 5th.
So I have a motion to amend the deferral motion. Is there a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Councillor Plummer. Okay, and so Councillor Jacquinot, is it about the amendment to the deferral of the motion?
Just a comment, Your Worship.
Not allowed.
Pardon me?
It's not debatable.
There's no debate allowed.
Only
Is it a tabling or a deferral?
Yeah, it's not tabled.
I'm going to allow it. I know on the tabling you don't debate it, but on...
My only question, Your Worship,
Correct.
is this has been an ongoing, long process. Is this going to have some financial implication, even more so, on the city from a legal standpoint or otherwise? Thank you.
So Councillor Jacquinot, is that a question towards staff? I'm taking it's towards staff. Mr. CAO?
Yeah, I can't provide any evidence in regards to definite, in regards to financial consequences, but the information that we're getting from our solicitor is that opposing counsel has confirmed that they intend to immediately return to the courts, asking a judge to immediately transfer the property to them or asking a judge to force the minutes of settlement to be approved. If it's not passed tonight.
Councillor Keel, about your motion, I guess.
So if we're going to allow very quick debate, so my concern is currently the registered plan has not been registered. We currently don't have a full legal description. I don't see any information in this proposed bylaw with respect to the easements, which I find very important to this thing. So my purpose for deferring to the next meeting is I understand that the plan should be registered. I believe it was within a week. So my hope is that there will be clarity. I do appreciate that the clerk, to try and rectify this situation, included the clause that the clerk is hereby authorized to make such minor deletions, additions, or other changes to the bylaw for the purpose of ensuring the legal description of the property is in alignment with the registered plan document. I'm personally just not comfortable with that. So Your Worship, I haven't changed my mind, and I don't think the other side is necessarily going to run to court, because without the registered plan, we can't register the transfer anyway. So that is why I'm seeking to postpone this just to the next meeting, because I do want to see the legal description and I do want to see the transfer.
Okay, does staff have any comment about the depositing of this plan that's attached to the bylaw?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. The information that we're getting from the surveyor, that they, I believe, have deposited it to the registry office, and as Councillor Keel had highlighted, that it usually takes a week. So yeah, I don't know if it will get done by the next, well, that would give it 2 weeks. So it is a possibility. I just don't control the registry office, and I would, leave it up to Councillor Keel and yourself to have more knowledge of that.
And I'm trying to
situation.
postpone it as little as possible. So the next meeting, if we don't have it and I still have concerns, we can address it again. But I do want to say very clearly, that is my issue, is that particular issue.
So, Councillor Lafreniere, there's the first up is the motion to amend the deferral motion to May something, 5th, and then it would be to vote on the motion to defer, followed by, well, and if that passes, then it's deferred to the May 5th, and we don't even get to the other motion, which is this bylaw that's before the, before council at this time. Councillor Purcell.
Thanks, Mayor. We heard tonight from some residents in terms of the grind located around the grind property, and these residents are requesting transparency and a need for openness, as well as integrity with a licensing bylaw to protect the neighborhood. And they're looking for a balanced approach. I'm sure that the comments that were made here at their presentation, I'm sure we can all reflect in terms of maybe we need a little bit more transparency in the process. All they're asking for is a little bit of time for staff to bring forward the care establishment bylaw, so they can have a better understanding in terms of the controls that are in place. They haven't, according to the neighborhood, they haven't even seen the good neighbors policy or the code of conduct. I mean, I think it's the right thing to do. I think we need just to pause and just ensure that the protections are in place for not only those individuals that are around the grind neighborhood, but also the warming center and the Heart Hub. So it'd be that care establishment bylaw would be applicable to all three different locations that we provide these care services. So I don't know if Councillor Keel, if they can actually have that done by the next meeting. I don't see that being possible. No. So I mean, if the deferral goes to the next meeting, well then the individuals aren't getting the transparency that they need. So it's up to this council to move forward.
Okay, Councillor Plummer.
Just, I guess maybe point clarification to Councillor Purcell. At that, this bylaw would defer to that meeting. At that morning, you could then bring up concerns again, and maybe there's a new in their motion to defer past that. If staff can give us a definite time on that bylaw, but this motion tonight is to defer to the next meeting, and then we can obviously raise the issues again next meeting.
And from the chair, all I can say is that my concern is what is being expressed by staff is that if they return the hearing, are we then down a path, like we've already been debating this and discussing this and so forth for well over a year. I understand the concerns of Councillor Keel. I do, like the bylaw is referring to a Schedule A, and I could be wrong, but I don't see where it says Schedule A, but I understand what you're saying, and I understand in terms of the easement. It's just, my concern is that then if the council then decides to bring it back, anyways, that's what my concern is. So for that reason, in terms of the amendment to the deferral, I'm going to vote no, and on the other one, I'm just letting you know I'm voting no, just because I recognize what the concern is, but I have every faith in staff that they would. The intention is what we've discussed in the minutes of settlement, so to do something contrary would be not proper, but in any event. So we're going to call the question on the motion to amend to the deferral to to be specific to the May 5th date. So can I see a show of hands on that one? So to be clear, because I see some looks. So we're first voting on the motion to defer to May 5th, like to amend the motion to defer to add the May 5th date to it. So that's the first thing that I'm asking for. Right? That's the motion that Councillor Keel has made and was seconded by, for clarity's sake, Councillor Plummer. So those in favor of this one? 2 against, and those, or 2 in favor, those against. Okay, so the motion to amend to have the May 5th part has failed, so it brings us then to the next motion. You're just working here tonight at 9 o'clock. So the next one is the motion to defer this particular matter without a specific date. And just for clarity's sake, so it's moved by Councillor Purcell.
Yeah, and then the motion was to defer the transfer ownership of 273 Victoria Street until such time that the care establishment bylaw is approved by council, along with meaningful community and care establishment engagement.
Thank you for that. And it was seconded by who? The deputy mayor. Okay, so anyone else want to comment on that particular one? Because I'm going to call the question on that one, not the N one, the deferral one.
Your
Councillor
worship,
Jackman.
are we continuing to delay the process? That's my only concern, and I can certainly sympathize with the residents who are here, but they're indicating to us and implying that we are not transparent, and I take that a little bit out of context because I think we are. Maybe not in their particular outlook, because they may be focused on a certain issue that deals with their problem, but they're not looking at the overall issue with the settlement, the legality of it all. And are we just delaying this? Is this going to be just, how would I put it, delay tactic to just keep it delayed indefinitely? That's my concern, because we're going to have to make up our minds one way or the other, but I think there should be a timeline on it, because now you're going to have to go back to the other legal people and say, hey, we were coming up with a decision, but now we don't know. I just don't know from a legal aspect how that holds up.
Fair enough. So then on the motion to defer, I'm going to call those in favor. 2, those against. So that motion fails.
Can I get a recorded vote, please?
Sure.
Recorded vote, please.
So do we want to read the motion? Are we clear?
I'll read the motion again, just because I want
Okay, no.
clarity.
For the minutes, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. So the motion to defer the transfer ownership of 273 Victoria Street until such time the care establishment bylaw is approved by council with meaningful community and care establishment engagement.
Okay. So in regards to the motion that was just read, Deputy Mayor Brian Abdallah,
Yes.
Councillor Ed Jacquino,
Are we finished with comments? This is the vote?
Yes, now we're into the recorded vote, so you're
Okay,
basically
so-
confirming, Councillor
So
Jackman.
no
what-
timeline, obviously. No.
Councillor Ian Keel,
No.
Councillor Pat Lafreniere,
No.
Councillor Andrew Plummer,
No.
Councillor Troy Purcell,
Yes.
and Mayor Ron Gervais.
Nay.
So the vote is not carried.
So that brings us then to the bylaw that's before us, that's moved by Councillor Jacquino and seconded by Councillor Plummer. So it brings us to that one. Did anyone wish to, so I'm trying to think at this point. So Councillor Jack, and I recall, it could be wrong, it's 9 o'clock at night. You spoke to it already, correct?
That's correct, Your Worship. I have nothing else to comment on.
Okay. Does anyone else wish to speak to it? So I have Councillor Plummer.
I signed the, seconded to get it to the table to bring it up for discussion. I'm still not comfortable with selling a piece of property that has no proper legal description of easements and such. It's just, I've bought many pieces of property, I've sold many pieces of property. You have to have a proper legal description and easements on title before you can officially do that. I just don't see that here. That's why we had a motion earlier to defer it for a couple weeks, just for clarity. I know through the mayor's comments, the staff's intent to do that. Sometimes things get lost in intent and don't get on paper. As a council, I think we should actually see everything we're selling and everything we're entitled to, and if that needs 2 weeks or a week, then I think that's the proper course. So I don't know how I can support selling a piece of property with no proper description.
Other members wish to speak to the bylaw? Seeing none. Oh, Councillor Keel.
Can staff circulate the legal description and the transfer before it's registered?
Yes, and it will be vetted by our legal counsel as well in regards to the registry office document.
Is it the legal counsel that was involved in the settlement?
Like on our side, yes,
Yes.
and their team, who specializes in these transfers.
Okay, that would give me comfort.
Yes.
Mr. Plummer.
The good neighbors policy and the notice of minutes to staff, have they been already produced? And like, I don't remember seeing anything yet.
Sorry, which documents?
The good neighbors policy. Because we were supposed to, in the minutes of settlement, we were supposed to, have a good neighbors policy in place, and
Yeah, so that's supposed to be developed through the Grind Pembroke.
so they're developing it?
They're developing it, yeah. Yeah, we've given them the templates. But and just to reiterate, the idea is that this will go through in regards to the good neighbor policy and that, but it would follow closely behind in regards to the care established bylaw, which will state out in detail what is required through all the documents. That will have the public consultation, that will have the due course.
So then follow up to that, the care establishment bylaw, do we have a timeline for that?
So it is in draft at this point. I would say that we would bring it forward probably in the next opportunity that we would have. And then also the public consultation. That might be the part that takes a bit of time. But I would say that the care established bylaw, I'd have to talk to the planner, but it could be brought back on the next planning, possibly on the 5th. I'm not sure exactly what stage it is, but we already had some consultation internally, what it would look like.
And one final follow-up to that, the community involvement piece, were we having a public meeting for that, or some sort of community engagement day to have comments?
Yeah, I'd have to defer to the director of planning on that to see exactly what the public consultation would be. Yeah, I'm not. I don't want to say that it'll be a public meeting, and there's another thought that it would be consultation. But if there's something that council would like to direct staff in regards to public consultation, certainly open up to that.
Councillor Keel.
I get clarification. So a good neighbor policy is not part of the settlement. It's a draft proposal to the grind?
Yeah, let me just take a look at the oh.
If I can look through the closed documents, we can have 5 minutes.
We can have a 5-minute recess to allow staff to get the answer that Councillor Keel is requesting. Good evening, everyone. We're turning to the council meeting to order for April 21st. Thank you for the recess and the indulgence. So a question was raised by Councillor Keel. Can staff comment about provide an answer to the question?
Yes, so through you, Chair, there were a schedule for a community code of, or a code of conduct for patrons, along with a good neighbor policy, and they're appended to the minutes of settlement as discussed and presented in closed session on January 6, 2026, and their schedules C and D of the minutes of settlement.
Councillor Keel?
No, so that was just clarity because my memory was that the code and the policy were set by the minutes of settlement. Someone I think earlier had stated that it was a proposal, but they are in fact set and part of the minutes of settlement.
Okay, thank you. So it addresses that question. So all the other motions have been dealt with, and so now we're dealing with the bylaw that's before us. Does anyone else wish to speak to it? Seeing none, I'd be looking for a recorded vote on this particular bylaw.
Okay, so back to the original motion to pass bylaw 2026-41, a bylaw authorizing the execution of the necessary documents to transfer ownership of a portion of the premises known municipally as 273 Victoria Street, Pembroke, Ontario, from the Corporation of the City of Pembroke to the grind, be adopted and passed. And so that's the question and vote being recorded on currently. So Deputy Mayor Brian Abdallah.
No.
Councillor Ed Jacquino.
Yes.
Councillor Ian Keel.
Yes.
Councillor Pat Lafreniere.
Yes.
Councillor Andrew Plummer.
Nay.
Councillor Troy Purcell.
No.
Mayor Ron Gervais.
Yay.
So the vote is carried 4-3.
There are no motions. No, there is a motion. Let's turn the page. Moving ahead to motions. Protection for municipal public works workers and contractors. Councillor Plummer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by South Second Councillor Jacquino. The recommendation. Whereas municipal public works employees and contracted services providers are responsible for critical infrastructure maintenance, including roads, sidewalks, bridges, drain systems, winter maintenance operations that are essential for the safety of the public and emergency responses. And whereas during significant weather events and emergencies, these workers act as frontline responders, ensure routes remain open for ambulances, fire services, police, school transportation, and traveling public. And whereas municipals across Ontario are reporting an increase in harassment, threats, intimidation, and dangerous interference from members of the public directed at municipal workers and subcontractors while performing their duties. And whereas these behaviors have included verbal abuse, threats, violence, obstruction of equipment, and actions that delay and disrupt winter maintenance and emergency response operations, placing workers and the broader public at risk. And whereas interference with municipal operations during storms and emergencies jeopardize service levels, delays at critical response times, and create significant occupational health and safety risks. Whereas the Association of Ontario Road Supers has formally called on the Province of Ontario to strengthen legislation protections, enforcement support, and consequences for those who threaten or obstruct municipal public works staff and contractors. And be it resolved, the Corporation City of Pembroke supports and calls on action in advance of the Association of Ontario Road Supers for improvement protections of municipal public works workers and subcontractors. Be it further resolved, the Province of Ontario is requested to introduce legislation and enforcement measures that recognize municipal public works workers and contractors as essential service providers during declare significant weather events and emergencies, deter and penalize interference, threats, harassment, and obstruction of municipal workers, and provide clear direction and support for police services and proactively response to these incidents. And be it further resolved that a letter conveying the council's support of these measures be sent to the Honourable David Pinsey, Minister of Labour, Immigration, Training and Skills Development, Honourable Rob Flack, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario. and that the copy of the resolution be forwarded to the Association of Road Supers and neighboring municipalities for their consideration.
Well read by Councillor Plummer. Do I have the consensus of council to waive rereading? Thank you. Did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Plummer?
No, this was talked earlier, and I think it well covers that we need to protect our workers and municipal workers, and we have to, no one is has a right to threaten workers while doing their job.
Thank you. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Next up is correspondence. There is a report from the Integrity Commissioners, Annual Report 2024-2025, looking for direction from council to A, receive the report, and B, to, as I understand it, post it on our website. Councillor Gill.
I move that we receive the report and post it on our website.
Seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Those in favor? That is carried. There we go. Brings us to Mayor's Report. So good evening, everyone. I wish to bring forward my Mayor's Report at this time. On April 9th, our CEO and I had a great meeting with our MPP, Billy Deneau, to have further discussions on topics of interest to our residents. We have and will continue to have such meetings to advocate for residents. Our MPP always welcomes those discussions. April 11th, the Pembroke Firefighters Association held their pancake breakfast fundraiser. It was nice to see so many of you out supporting the Pembroke and Laurentian Valley Handybus and Pembroke firefighters who were doing yet another event to support a local cause. Later that day, I had the fortune of attending Renfrew County Science Fair at Algonquin College this year. And so it was very well attended. It was nice to see at the Algonquin College Waterfront College. Normally it's held in Petawawa. And so it was nice to have it at an educational facility. The city is a sponsor to this event and encourages our youth in the sciences. And I was very pleased to see a variety of different projects. And certainly we are in good hands with these youth. They're certainly much more advanced when it comes to science than I ever was at that age. April 17th, I had the benefit of attending with our MPP, our warden, our economic development attraction officer, Ms. Barr, and others to tour and to review and discuss Magellan Aerospace. This is a facility that specializes in precision magnesium and aluminum sand castings. It was an excellent opportunity to do a tour, to have discussions with them, and to discuss how the city of Pembroke might be able to facilitate that location. I can tell you in all the different years that I've ever lived here, I thought about CNL and Garrison being a huge employer to our area and basically creating a bubble for this area so that when the economy might be doing some unfortunate things in the rest of the province, we are generally insulated. But I never thought of this facility, but it employs a number of individuals. I think it was 500 individuals, and they're looking to grow. Today had the fortune to be joined by Councillor Keel, and we had the benefit of meeting a new business individual in our community, Peak Digital Partners. They, as I understand it, are founded by a Métis entrepreneur, Matthew. His organization or his company helps local trades and service businesses across the Ottawa Valley regarding Google Mapping, Apple Maps, and AI and some other items. So it was interesting speaking with him today. Just to indicate to, and I know staff have done an excellent job at this in terms of media releases, but tomorrow there is an emergency exercise. It is an exercise, so when things are happening and whatnot, we don't want the public having some concerns or what have you. So there will be a lot of activity around the PMC, but it is an exercise. Finally, I would be remiss if I did not recognize this week as Volunteer Appreciation Week, and just want to acknowledge so many volunteers in our community that make a positive impact to our community. As Fred Blackstein always says, and I paraphrase, volunteers are not paid not because they're worthless, but because they're priceless. And so for all those volunteers out there, keep up the great work, whether you're with a service club or you're just going it alone. Very proud of each and every one of you in our community. And as always, stay safe and be kind to one another. Are there any notices of motion, Deputy Mayor? No. Okay, no notices of motion. Councillor updates, Deputy Mayor? Okay.
Thank you, Your Worship. Building on what you said about National Volunteer Week, Mary and I attended the Germania Club dinner and dance. They had a volunteer appreciation and a 50s dance, and it was nice for them to thank all the volunteers with a delicious meal from Law and Orders. And they got a great crowd for their dance, John Peavy Band, and it's good to see the Germania Club and all the volunteers. They do such great work. Everyone, all the volunteers do great work. Just like Sunday evening, we went to the Calvin United Church. The Pembroke Community Choir had a band review. Such talent, 60 or 70 people on stage, sellout crowd. They had another performance the day before, I believe, in the afternoon. And these are all volunteers, you know, led by Darlene Termers and company on the piano, and Gerald Lerone, the conductor, and just a fabulous organization. Speaking of volunteers, tomorrow evening at the Pembroke Fire Station at 7 o'clock is our spring community watch meeting. Everybody's welcome. And the farmers market opens at 10 a.m. on May 16th. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Other members of council? Councillor Keel?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to reiterate the fire department's pancake breakfast, raising funds for the handy bus, was certainly an excellent meal. I know the deputy mayor was there, Councillor Plummer. I think we passed on Bennett Street actually while you were leaving. Councillor Jacquino was there. And in terms of volunteering, our Professional Firefighter Association does so much all year long. On their own time, in addition to into their work, and so certainly, Your Worship, I want to send out a big appreciation to our fire department and our professional firefighters. On April 13th, I attended at Algonquin College. They had their Pembroke Job Fair there. It was so good to see so many people marching around their resumes, and I spoke to a number of the employers. Obviously, the economic base of any community is what keeps us thriving and keeps us going. So it was, I really want to thank Algonquin College for putting that on. I want to congratulate the Pembroke Symphony Orchestra. This past weekend was their last event of the season. It was an excellent Latin-based show. A couple hundred people in attendance for that event at Festival Hall. So congratulations to PSO on another successful season. On Monday, I was happy to attend at the PMC with our ECDEV and tourism staff, as well as representatives from Integrated Health Center, Apex Dental, and the French Public School to kick off the Pembroke Expo. So that will be May 8th and 9th at the Pembroke Memorial Center, and I'm sure many of you will be in attendance. It's always a really good time and a really good way to connect with the various community organizations. Your Worship, you're going to have to take a breath for this one. Upcoming at Festival Hall, Thursday is a tribute to the Beatles, Beatlemania. Friday is Morgan Wallen tribute. Saturday at 1 p.m. is Ignite Lift Acro Evolution's recreational showcase. Saturday at 7 p.m. is Elevate Lift Acro Evolution's competitive showcase. And Sunday is Enchanted Wonders, a family magic show. So Festival Hall is going to be busy. Thursday, Friday, Saturday twice, and Sunday. Upcoming after that on May 2nd, Real Love, Kenny and Dolly tribute, and May 7th, Sean McCann from Great Big Sea, his Sink or Swim tour. And finally, Your Worship, I just want to take a moment to specifically thank all of the volunteers at Festival Hall. The hall could not do what it does without the volunteers. There's dozens of them, as you heard a couple meetings ago during the Festival Hall delegation. I know Councillor Purcell, he's been there, he's volunteered, and we certainly thank everyone who attends. In fact, I think Councillor Jacquino was rocking it out to Queen not too long ago at Festival Hall. So thank you to all the volunteers at Festival Hall. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Other members of council? Councillor Plummer?
Just to build on Councillor Keel's comments about the pancake breakfast, we were there early with my two sons, and they simply loved it. And then I said, early this week, they asked, can we go to the fire hall for pancakes? I said, unfortunately, they don't sell pancakes, or don't give pancakes away every time. So you can be sure that the next event they have will be there again, because they just simply love the trucks. Thank you, Pembroke.
revenue generation.
Baby, there we go.
Right on. Okay. Deputy Mayor, I understand you have a motion to move into a closed session.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Andrew Plummer. Motion for council to move into a caucus meeting on April 21st, 2026. This meeting become a closed meeting to discuss proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of lands by the municipality as per section 2392C of the Municipal Act regarding offer to purchase Transcan Corporate Park and B, offer to purchase Transcan Corporate Park.
Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Plummer, that this meeting become a closed meeting to discuss proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of lands by the municipality as per section 239-2C of the Municipal Act regarding offer to purchase Transcan Corporate Park ×2. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. We'll now move into a closed session.